Close your eyes and breathe deeply. The air around you is clean, perhaps touched with the faint scent of laundry detergent or the lingering traces of your morning coffee. You live in a world where fragrance is a choice, a luxury, a momentary pleasure. But imagine yourself stepping back through time into the narrow, exceeding streets of 18th century Paris, where scent was not merely decoration, but necessity, where the air itself told stories of survival, beauty, and the endless human desire to transform the harsh realities of daily life into something more bearable. In this aromatic journey, we will explore a world that existed in the delicate balance between beauty and brutality, between the sweetest rose, oils, and the most overwhelming stenches of urban life. You will walk alongside the quiet artisans who worked with flowers and spices, whose careful hands created the fragrances that would mask the odors of a city without modern sanitation, and whose creations would become the signature scents of kings and queens. This is the story of the perfumers of Paris, those patient alchemists who transformed petals into liquid gold, who understood that in a world where death and disease lurked around every corner, beauty became not just pleasure, but refuge. Tonight, as you drift between waking and sleeping, let yourself be carried into their world, a world where every scent told a story, where every fragrance was both an art and an act of survival. The year is 1738. You stand at the entrance to the bustling market of Les Halles, where the river Seine once flowed freely through the heart of Paris. Now the river is covered over, transformed into a bustling marketplace, filled with merchants hawking their wares. Everywhere around you, vendors lay out their fragrant wares, competing for your attention. The air thick with the mingled aromas of ripe fruit, fresh herbs, and the musk of animals. The stalls overflow with oranges, lemons, cinnamon, cloves, and nutmeg, their exotic scents mingling with the sweet perfume of nearby flower sellers. Here at the center of Paris, life teems in every corner. But beneath the lively chatter, a darker story unfolds. For here in the crowded stalls and winding pathways, disease and decay lurk closely. And when winter's icy grip tightens its hold, overflowing gutters and unpaved streets will transform into a chilling reminder of the city's harsh realities. Sickness and death linger close by, their presence a haunting counterpoint to the vibrant market life. Amidst this vivid chaos, you see him, a man of quiet focus, amidst the clamor and the crush of the marketplace. He is our perfumer, a man named Jean. Like many others who earn their living from nature's bounty, Jean is an early riser. He has come to the market before dawn to secure the finest ingredients for his craft. Today, his quest is lavender, prized for its calming, almost hypnotic scent. As he carefully examines each sprig, the flower's subtle variations whispering tales of soil and sunshine to his practiced eye and nose. You realize that for Jean, scent is more than fragrance. Each aroma holds a story, a memory, an emotion. Lavender, for him, evokes images of sun-drenched fields, of tranquility and rest. Yet even as he selects his blooms, he is aware that these innocent flowers are about to undergo a transformation. A distillation that will intensify their essence, altering their character in ways both exhilarating and unpredictable. As you follow Jean through the labyrinthine streets of Paris, the city slowly awakens around you. The rhythmic clang of a farrier's hammer echoes through the narrow passageways, mingling with the murmur of merchants readying their wares. Everywhere, signs of life, of industry, and commerce begin to stir. Jean's small shop soon comes into view, a sanctuary of sorts amidst the city's growing bustle. Stepping inside, you are enveloped by an atmosphere heavy with the raw materials of scent. Dried herbs and spices line the shelves, each with its own tale to tell. In this intimate space, Jean works his alchemy, transforming the natural world into bottled perfumes, eau de cologne, and aromatic waters. His shop, though small, is a crucible of creativity and a testament to the power of scent to transform lives. And so your journey begins, a journey through the heart of 18th century Paris. A world where life and death, beauty and decay were intertwined in a delicate, fragrant dance. You have entered a world where the air itself tells stories and where every scent holds 1,000 memories. Today, you will make a scent unlike any other, an aroma so unique and complex that it will become the defining fragrance of a king. But first, the mundane tasks of the day must be done. While the furnace glows, you turn to your workbench, where half-empty bottles await. It is time to weigh and measure, to combine notes and test, testing the balance of ingredients that make each fragrance come alive. And as you work, the scents of your earlier life drift through your mind. Your formal training ended years ago, but the lessons you learned as a boy in the bustling market of Rennes remain fresh in your memory. The earthy musk of ripe camembert mingling with the brine of just-landed mackerel, the sweet perfume of apples piled high for market, the heady bouquet of fresh bread from the baker's stall, all these memories inform your art. In fact, the entire city of Paris itself seems to exist as one great perfume, a labyrinth of aromas that shifts and evolves as you do. From the pungent smoke of tanneries near the Seine to the delicate scent of orange blossom wafting from a hidden courtyard, every neighborhood has its own character, its own story to tell. Even the grand palace of Versailles, home to the Sun King himself, has its own perfume, a complex blend of wood smoke from the royal kitchens, the musky odor of courtiers and nobles, and the sweet fragrance of flowers cultivated in the royal gardens. The rolling fields of Provence hold special significance for you too, for here the finest lavender in the world grows. Each flower is picked at the height of summer, then dried with care to preserve its color and scent. For you, there is nothing like the feeling of walking through rows upon rows of lavender, inhaling the sweet herbaceous aroma that surrounds you. Back in Paris, the scent of lavender reminds you of simpler times, of long days spent learning the secrets of your trade. As you add a touch of bergamot to the mix, you recall your travels to the Italian island of Sicily, where you spent months working with artisans to perfect the distillation process. These memories weave themselves into your very being, forming an intricate tapestry of scent and experience. Today, however, you are creating something new, and it will take more than nostalgia to capture the essence of what your esteemed patron, the Marquise de Montespan, has requested. Your furnace is roaring steadily, and you are ready to begin. You dip a quill into an ink bottle and write down the formula for the fragrance you are about to make. Perfumery is as much an art as a science, and each fragrance is like a small work of art, a masterpiece unto itself. To create a scent, you must understand the three essential elements: top notes, middle notes, and base notes. Top notes are the first impressions, the opening bars of a fragrance that announce its character. Middle notes form the heart of a scent, adding depth and complexity. They are the main theme of the fragrance. Base notes provide the foundation upon which the entire composition rests. They are the background harmony that gives the fragrance its richness and staying power. Creating a fragrance involves a delicate balancing act. Each ingredient must play its part, and yet each must also harmonize with the others. Too much bergamot can make a scent sharp and biting. Too little will result in a weak, ineffectual opening. The same is true of lavender, rose, and every other ingredient in your arsenal. Finding the right balance requires a perfumer's intuition, an almost magical understanding of how different scents will interact and evolve over time. As you weigh out the components of your latest creation, you think back to the many famous fragrances you have created over the years. There is the scent of the sea, which uses the essence of seaweed and salt spray to evoke the feeling of a brisk walk along the Normandy coast. Then there is the fragrance of the forest, a woody, earthy aroma reminiscent of moss and fallen leaves that brings the tranquility of a moonlit woodland to the wearer. Each of these perfumes has its own unique character, just as each place has its own distinct smell. Your job is to capture these scents and translate them into something wearable, something that can evoke a powerful emotional response with just a single spritz. As you reach for a bottle of Rose Absolute, your thoughts drift to the gardens of the Palace of Versailles. Here, amidst the manicured hedges and vibrant flower beds, you found inspiration for many of your creations. The scent of roses in particular has always held a special allure for you, and you have experimented with many different varieties, from the classic red rose to the delicate pink centifolia. Each type of rose has its own nuances, its own unique contribution to make to a fragrance. The deep red damask rose, with its spicy, clove-like aroma, adds warmth and sensuality to a composition. On the other hand, the tea rose, known for its light, citrusy fragrance, can bring a refreshing, almost soapy quality to a scent. As you work, the streets outside come alive with the sounds of Paris awakening. The clip-clop of horse hooves on cobblestones, the calls of street vendors, the murmur of conversation as people go about their daily business. The city's energy seeps into your workshop, reminder that you are creating fragrances not just for the royal court, but for the people of Paris as well. The bell above your door chimes, announcing the arrival of a customer. You pause in your work, and as you look up, you see a dashing young man standing in your doorway. He introduces himself as Jean Fragonard, a painter who has come to commission a scent to wear on his canvases. You listen attentively as he describes the impressionistic style he is developing. A style that captures the fleeting moment, the essence of a subject before it disappears. Intrigued by the parallels between your art and his, you set about creating a fragrance that will embody the spirit of his paintings. The afternoon sun streams through the windows as you work, casting long shadows on the floor. It is time to macerate the petals, a crucial step in creating a truly exceptional fragrance. As you gently crush the petals, releasing their precious oils, you think about the many faces that have visited your shop over the years. There are the young lovers who seek to enhance their natural aroma, hoping to make a good impression on their beloved. Then there are the older gentlemen who want to recapture the scent of their youth, to relive a moment from a bygone era. Each person has their own story, their own unique chemistry that makes them smell differently, that affects the way they perceive and interact with the world. You have made many trips to the lush vineyards of Bordeaux and the rolling hills of Burgundy, where the grape harvest is a celebration of the season. It is during these visits that you learned the art of blending wine and fragrance. Some wines, such as the robust Cabernet Sauvignon, have a distinct herbaceousness that can add a unique depth to a scent. Others, like the aromatic Sauvignon Blanc, bring a crisp, mineral quality that can balance out heavier notes. By infusing wine into the fragrance, you can create a truly unforgettable aroma. As the day draws to a close, you step back to admire your work. Before you is a symphony of aromas waiting to be bottled, a testament to your skill and artistry. The sun dips below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. Soon, the streets of Paris will be aglow with the light of evening, and the sounds of laughter and music will carry on the breeze. You think about the patrons who will wear your fragrances, how they will carry a piece of your art with them wherever they go, how your scents will mingle with theirs, enhancing their natural aroma and making them irresistible. With the final touches complete, you seal the bottle and set it aside to rest. Tomorrow, you will present this fragrance to the Marquis de Montespan, and you know that he will be impressed. But as you look around your workshop, you realize that your greatest reward is the satisfaction of a job well done. The scent of creation hangs heavy in the air, a reminder that you are not just a perfumer, but an artist. A weaver of aromas who captures the essence of a city, a nation, and indeed the world. In the quiet of your workshop, surrounded by the ghosts of scents past, you know that your work is never truly finished. Every new creation is a chance to explore, to experiment, and most importantly, to tell stories through the universal language of fragrance. And so, you continue to work, driven by an insatiable curiosity and a passion for your art that burns as brightly as the furnace at the heart of your shop. The furnace roars back to life. Tendrils of smoke curl from beneath its belly, twisting and turning in the confines of the small room before escaping through cracks near the ceiling. Outside, the sky is beginning to lighten, but you work in the dim glow of oil lamp. The dancing flames reflected in your keen eyes. Your face, weathered like the pages of an ancient book, is creased with concentration as you stoke the embers with a long poker. Like a seasoned sailor reading the wind, you judge the heat by the flickering light, adjusting the draft with practiced hands. Beneath the furnace, a steady supply of resinous pine wood fuels the blaze, coaxing the copper still towards a gentle boil. Today, as every day, you are at the mercy of the elements, for it is not by science or formulae that you produce these fragrant oils, but by intuition and the subtle language of heat and steam. Paris, 17th century. In the heart of a bustling city, hidden away from the clamor of the cobblestone streets and the perfume of fresh bread from a nearby boulangerie, lies a modest workshop. Its windows, small and barred, reveal little of the secrets held within. Here, in this modest abode, resides a master distiller, a creator of fine fragrances whose craft has been passed down through generations. He works alone, his only companions, the ghosts of his ancestors, and the spirits born of flowers and spice. His name, though once renowned throughout Paris, has been lost to time, but the legacy of his trade endures. Every morning he awakens before the sun, drawn by an instinct older than memory. First, the rose petals arrive. These are not the perfect, uniform blooms of modern cultivation, but the smaller, more fragrant varieties that grow in the monastery gardens outside the city walls. The petals arrived yesterday evening, carried in rough hemp sacks by a monk whose weathered hands spoke of years spent tending the same bushes from which these flowers were plucked at dawn. He accepts the offering with a nod, his face etched with the wisdom of countless seasons. Within the sack, nestled amidst layers of straw, are treasures more precious than gold. Petals unfurled in shades of pink and white, their velvety softness whispering tales of summer's blush. The petals are not merely dropped into the still, they are arranged, their colors carefully considered, for it is said that beauty itself can influence the spirit's essence. And so the petals are artfully layered, transforming the copper still into a vessel of both function and aesthetics. You pour the rose petals into a large copper still, their pink and white confetti creating a small mountain of fragrance that fills the air around you with their sweet, slightly green scent. The copper vessel, polished to a warm glow by years of use, sits atop an iron tripod that positions it perfectly above the furnace flames. This still is your most precious tool, inherited from your master when you completed your apprenticeship. And before that, passed down through 3 generations of perfumers. Its shape is a legacy from your ancestors who, like you, coaxed aromatic spirits from the heart of flowers. The furnace roars back to life. Tendrils of smoke curl from beneath its belly, twisting and turning in the confines of the small room before escaping through cracks near the ceiling. Outside, the sky is beginning to lighten, but you work in the dim glow of oil lamp, the dancing flames reflected in your keen eyes. Your face, weathered like the pages of an ancient book, is creased with concentration as you stoke the embers with a long poker. Like a seasoned sailor reading the wind, you judge the heat by the flickering light, adjusting the draft with practiced hands. Beneath the furnace, a steady supply of resinous pine wood fuels the blaze, coaxing the copper still towards a gentle boil. The copper still, a family heirloom passed down from your master to you, begins to sing as the rose petals nestled within it release their fragrant oils. You watch it closely, understanding that within this dance of fire and vapor lies the essence of your trade. When the moment is right, you place a glass vial beneath the outflow pipe, capturing the first drops of rose oil. This amber liquid, imbued with the very soul of the rose, is more than just a fragrance. It is a testament to the harmony between nature and human intuition. But the journey from flower to fragrance is not a solitary one. Apprentice by your side, eager eyes mirroring your own, observes each step, absorbing the taciturn teachings of your gaze. Water follows the petals, not the water from the Seine that most Parisians use for daily tasks, but clean spring water that you purchase at considerable expense from merchants who bring it from wells in the countryside. The water is not merely poured into the still, but measured with a practiced eye, for too much will dilute the essence you seek to capture, while too little will cause the delicate petals to scorch and ruin the entire batch. The measurement is not done with modern precision, but with the intuitive knowledge that comes from years of practice, the same way a baker knows the feel of proper dough beneath their hands. With each step, the apprentice's understanding deepens. The careful selection of petals, the nuanced judgment of water, the patient observation of the distillation process, all become part of their developing lexicon of scents. As the water begins to warm, releasing the first whispers of rose-scented steam, you turn to other preparations. Glass vials must be cleaned with meticulous care, for any residue from previous batches could contaminate today's work. You wash each small bottle with wine vinegar, then rinse them with your precious spring water, holding each one up to the morning light to ensure no spots or films remain on their surfaces. The washing is meditative work, a gentle rhythm that allows your mind to plan the day ahead while your hands perform tasks that have become as natural as breathing. Each vial is dried with soft linen cloths that you wash and bleach yourself, for even the slightest impurity could affect the quality of the precious oils you will store within these vessels. For the apprentice, this rhythmic routine becomes a lesson in patience and purity. Understanding that the final product will bear the mark of each preceding step, The sun climbs higher in the sky as the rose oil drips into the waiting vial. A few precious drops, the essence of hours of labor, are added to a small mortar and pestle. This humble tool, often overlooked, is the alchemist's confidant, whispering the secrets of botanical alchemy. With each grind, the aroma intensifies, its complexity unfolding like a tightly sealed letter, revealing its contents one scent at a time. The apprentice watches, transfixed, as the raw essence of the rose is transformed into something more refined, more concentrated. Mortar and pestle become a crucible, and the simple act of grinding releases the spirit's true potential. Hours pass, each marked by the gentle clink of tools and the soft murmur of instruction. The air grows thick with the heady fragrance of roses, mingling with the earthy aroma of wood smoke from the furnace. The rhythmic routine of cleaning, measuring, heating, and grinding creates a symphony of scents, a testament to the artistry of the distiller's trade. By midday, the copper still sings a different tune, its song now a lullaby as the rose's aromatic spirit is coaxed from the earthly realm. The apprentice, their senses attuned to the subtlest nuances of fragrance, can now distinguish the heart of the rose from its stem, its petals, and leaves. The sun climbs higher in the sky, casting long shadows from the furnace and still across the workshop floor. The air, heavy with the cloying sweetness of overripe roses, serves as a reminder of the delicate balance required in their craft. The apprentice, their brow furrowed in concentration, carefully measures out a few drops of essential oil, their hands steady despite the rising heat. Theirs is a task of great responsibility, for too little oil will result in a diluted fragrance, while too much could spoil the entire batch. With the weight of tradition upon their shoulders, they pour the oil into a small vial, its surface shimmering like a precious gem. As the afternoon sun streams through the small barred window, the apprentice carefully labels the vial. The cool glass, a welcome respite from the furnace's embrace. Each stroke of the quill is a lesson in precision, a testament to the importance of detail in their ancient trade. With the labeling complete, the apprentice places the vial in a leather satchel, its worn surface a map of journeys taken and lessons learned. The satchel, more than just a carrier of wares, is a symbol of the distiller's legacy, passed from master to apprentice under the watchful gaze of countless roses. And so the young distiller, their steps echoing with the wisdom of ages past, sets out into the bustling heart of Paris, carrying with them the essence of the rose and the hopes of a tradition kept alive. The scene is set in a bustling 19th-century Paris, where the air is thick with the scent of perfume and possibility. Our story follows a skilled perfumer as they navigate the intricate world of fragrance, balancing the demands of their eccentric clients with the artistry of their craft. Now, if you find yourself captivated by this narrative, I have a question for you. What role do you think scents play in our daily life? Are they merely a way to mask odors, or do they have a deeper impact on our emotions and memories? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below. Your insights might just inspire the next chapter of this aromatic adventure. The rose distillation continues its slow work, releasing precious drops of fragrant oil into the waiting flask. Meanwhile, you turn your attention to a new still, preparing to create another essence. Today's creation is a lavender oil, a special request from Madame Beaumont, a wealthy widow who graces the elegant townhouse 3 streets away. Her order is precise. She desires lavender from the high hills of Provence, where the plants flourish hardy and strong under the Mediterranean sun. Their oils concentrated by the rocky soil and relentless heat. Lavender, holds a special place in the heart of perfumers. Its clean, sharp scent with undertones of camphor and honey evokes memories of lazy summer days spent in endless fields. But to craft the perfect lavender scent for Madame Beaumont, you must source the finest ingredients. As the morning progresses and you tend to your various stills, you are fully present in the moment. Each task you perform is a step in a carefully choreographed dance, a testament to your years of training and experience. The lavender is measured into the still, to beautiful purple-gray blossoms, releasing their characteristic scent as you pour them from their storage jar. Their aroma fills the air, mingling with the sweet fragrance of the roses from the larger still nearby. The lavender's scent is distinct, yet it harmonizes beautifully with the roses, creating a rich, layered aroma that speaks of blooming fields and warm summer breezes. To create Madame Beaumont's favorite blend, This robust Provençal lavender will be married with a touch of bergamot oil, imported at great expense from the Italian coast, and a whisper of white musk. The combination will be both comforting and invigorating, perfect for the elegant widow who seeks to make a statement without being overly loud. With the lavender prepped, you move on to other tasks. Perhaps you check the progress of the rose distillation, noting by the color and intensity of the steam that the process is proceeding correctly. Or maybe you stir a vat of aging perfume, ensuring its consistency and quality. Each movement you make is purposeful, each action contributing to the grand symphony of scent that surrounds you. The process of distillation cannot be hurried. You understand this as you tend the flames and monitor the temperatures, moving between your stills like a musician conducting a slow, complex symphony. Here, you adjust the flame beneath the rose distillation, noting by the color and intensity of the steam that the process is proceeding correctly. There you test the temperature of the lavender still by holding your hand above its copper surface, feeling for the gentle, steady heat that indicates optimal conditions. Between these adjustments, you attend to the countless other tasks that fill a perfumer's day. Perhaps you write up the day's work in your ledger, recording the quantities of each ingredient used with precise detail. Each entry is a testament to your commitment to quality and consistency. Then you mix a new batch of cologne, following a formula passed down from a previous generation of perfumers. These recipes are more than just instructions, stories handed down through generations, tales of exotic ingredients in faraway lands. And as you mix and blend, you feel a sense of continuity, a connection to those who came before you. A knock at the door interrupts your thoughts. It's your apprentice, eager to learn and assist. You guide him through the tasks at hand, explaining the nuances of each step. The art of perfumery is not just about following recipes. It's about understanding the why behind the what. Why does the lavender need to steep for so long? Why is the heat in the rose still slightly cooler than in the lavender? Each question is a step towards mastery. As the day wanes, the light outside begins to soften, painting the walls with long shadows. Inside, the air is thick with the rich, heady scent of 1,000 blossoms and woods. In the corner, the rose distillation finishes its slow, meticulous work, releasing precious drops of fragrant oil into the waiting flask. Nearby, the lavender still sings its gentle tune, its soft melody blending with the murmur of your voice as you instruct your apprentice. Soon, it's time to stop for the day. The shop is neat and orderly, the tools put away, the flowers sorted and ready for the next day's work. You stand back to admire your handiwork, surrounded by the comforting sense of your trade. Tomorrow will bring new challenges and opportunities, new orders, perhaps a visit from a renowned chemist seeking your expertise, or maybe the chance to create a scent for an upcoming royal ball. Each day in the life of a perfumer is different, yet each is filled with the same dedication to the art. You lock up the shop, your steps echoing in the quiet street. The night is cool, the air still heavy with the perfume of the day. As you walk home, you think about the creations born from your hands that day, the tangible results of your skill and passion. In the quiet of your home, you unwind, your mind still working, still smelling. Perhaps you sit down to write in your journal, recording the events of the day, noting the successes and challenges, making plans for the future. For a perfumer's work is never truly done. There's always another scent to create, another challenge to meet. As the years pass, your skills only grow sharper, your palate more refined. You become known throughout Paris, perhaps even throughout Europe, for your exquisite perfumes. People come from far and wide to seek your services, to acquire your creations, or simply to bask in the atmosphere of your shop. One day you find yourself standing in the center of your bustling shop, surrounded by the fruits of your labor. The air is thick with the mingled scents of 1,000 flowers and woods, a testament to your skill and passion. Looking around, you see the legacy of your life's work, the people you've touched through your creations, the memories you've helped create and preserve, and in that moment, you know that being a perfumer was more than just a job. It was a calling that allowed you to infuse everyday moments with extraordinary fragrance. As you continue your work, the sounds of the city gradually fade away, replaced by the soft murmur of your thoughts. Outside, the seasons change, the years pass, but inside your shop, time seems to stand still. For here in this fragrant sanctuary, you've found your true calling. And so your journey continues, shaped by the delicate balance between tradition and innovation, between the timeless allure of classic scents and the exciting possibilities of new discoveries. Each new creation is a step into the unknown, a dance with the unpredictable nature of scent. Yet you embrace every challenge, knowing that it is through these risks that true artistry is born. The story of your life unfolds like a symphony, each note blending seamlessly into the next, creating a composition that is uniquely yours. Just as a perfumer carefully layers notes to create a harmonious blend, you two have woven together various experiences, passions and dreams to create the fragrance of your life. You run a small business in 18th-century Paris. You are known throughout the city for the quality of your products. But your shop is just one small business in a city full of others. So what makes yours special? What do your customers value so highly? How does that shape your business every day? Let's find out. When the sun rises over the rooftops of Paris, you rise with it, beginning another day of running your small business. Outside, the city is waking up, stretching and yawning as it begins another busy day of living. Working and trying to make money in a city that's often more interested in taking it than offering it. In the workshop behind your shop, the air is already filled with the comforting aroma of yesterday's work. The sweet floral scent of roses is one of many scents that fill your shop, each telling the story of precious ingredients gathered from around the world and distilled into pure essence, ready to be bottled and sold to the highest bidder. Each morning you mix a small batch of ink, an important part of your business. The ink you use is mixed fresh each morning from oak gall, iron salts, and gum arabic, another small ritual that connects you to centuries of tradition. The quills are cut from goose feathers, their tips shaped with a small, sharp knife to create the fine lines necessary for precise lettering. Each label becomes a small work of art, decorated with simple flourishes that speak of the precious contents within. As the day progresses, you begin the delicate work of monitoring your distillations. A gentle heat is applied to the rose petals collected yesterday, causing them to release their precious oils into a waiting vessel. The rose still produces its first drops of precious oil, which float like golden teardrops on the surface of the collected distillate. This rose oil, when properly extracted and aged, will be worth more than most Parisians earn in a month of labor. Each drop represents hours of careful work, months of waiting for the right flowers to bloom, and years of accumulated knowledge about how to capture the essence of beauty in liquid form. Throughout the morning, you check and recheck the levels of oil and water, always searching for the perfect balance between the two elements. It can take days for a single batch to reach the right consistency. But you have several different distillations going today. The orange blossoms you used last week are ready to be separated, and the lavender picked at dawn is almost ready for its turn. The most important part of the process is separating the oil from the water, a tricky procedure that must be performed with infinite patience. Using a small glass funnel fitted with the finest silk cloth, you slowly separate the precious oil from the flower water beneath. The operation is tedious, but the results are worth it. The oil will be stored in tiny vials, each one sealed with wax and labeled with careful notation about the date of creation, the source of the flowers, and the specific process used in its making. But the flower water is not discarded, far from it. This rose water, carrying its own delicate fragrance, will be sold to ladies who use it to scent their skin and hair, to mask the odors that are an inevitable part of life in a city where bathing is infrequent and sanitation primitive. Some of it will go to pastry cooks who use rose water to flavor their confections, while other portions will be purchased by housewives, add a few drops to their washing water to give their linens a touch of luxury. By midday, the rose water is ready to be bottled. You spend a few moments admiring the pale pink liquid before you seal it away for sale later in the week. The rest of the morning passes in a blur of activity. You weigh out small batches of dried lavender buds and mint leaves, each destined to become fragrant waters in weeks to come. New flower petals arrive from the market, carried in by eager young apprentices who sort them carefully before beginning the long process of distillation. By the time the clock tower chimes noon, you are covered in petals, your hands stained a deep purple from handling the latest batch of violets. But you take a moment to wipe yourself clean and open the shop doors to the public. It's time for business. The first customer to enter your shop is Madame Dubois, the baker's wife. She is an old customer and always arrives with a small purse of coins. Jingle, jingle. She has arrived today to purchase a vial of orange blossom water for her daughter's wedding next month. The young bride-to-be will use this precious liquid to scent her wedding dress and her marriage bed, following traditions that stretch back through generations of French brides. You know that she will return after the wedding to tell you all about it. And you take a moment to select the perfect vial of blossom water to ensure that everything goes perfectly for her. But soon a new customer appears in your doorway. You look up to see an elegant woman standing in the entryway, her eyes scanning the rows upon rows of bottles on your shelves. She introduces herself as Madame de Pompadour, mistress to the king and influential member of the nobility. She is looking for a special gift to present to the queen, something rare and valuable to impress the royal court. You know that you have exactly what she is looking for, and spend several minutes helping her select a variety of your most precious liquids. She will no doubt mark you up for these items when she presents them to the queen, but that is of little concern to you. You've done business with many members of the court and know better than to expect fairness. Still, it's always nice to receive extra money for doing the same work. And you pack up the bottles quickly, eager to please your very important customer. But now it's time to get back to work. You dismiss the ladies and return to your still, where your lavender has just reached the right consistency. The steam rises as you separate the oil from the water, filling your shop with the scent of fields and meadows. In the afternoon, you finish bottling the lavender water and set it aside to await sale. Soon, you will be famous throughout Paris for the high quality of your goods, but there is always room to improve. You decide to experiment with a new recipe, combining lavender and orange blossom to create a uniquely scented water unlike any you've made before. As the day wanes, the sun begins its slow journey toward the horizon, casting long shadows across your shop floor. You spend the evening hours cleaning your equipment, organizing your stock, and making preparations for tomorrow's work. When the time comes, you lock up your shop and head home, leaving the smell of roses clinging to your clothes and hair. As you drift off to sleep, you think about how your business might grow in the coming years. Perhaps one day you will have a large enough shop where you can hire assistants to help with the distilling and the selling. Maybe someday your children will take over the business, allowing you to retire and enjoy your fortune. You earned a small nest egg by opening this business. But you know that without constant vigilance and hard work, your success could easily slip through your fingers. Now you must close your eyes and rest, knowing that when the sun rises again, you must get up and do it all over again. Have you ever wondered how much your daily choices affect your future? My novella, The Business of Perfumes, explores the choices that shape success, love, family, and happiness in 18th century Paris. All right, let's play a game. What am I selling? That's right, perfume. In the 18th century, only the richest people could afford perfume because it was extremely expensive to make. It took dozens of people to run my shop. We specialized in making some of the finest perfumes in all of Paris. Our most important client was Madame de Pompadour, who always insisted on having the best quality products. But there were two problems with this business model. One, someone had to pick up the bill if the perfume wasn't sold. And two, running a business like this meant that sometimes you ended up with stock on your hands. Let's take a trip back to my shop. Hello, welcome to my store. I'm here today to show you how we make our perfume. We use only the highest quality ingredients, including many rare and exotic imports. For today's demonstration, I've chosen this beautiful orange blossom water, or as the English would say, orange flower water. It's actually distilled from the blossoms of bitter oranges. The tree is native to southern Europe, and every spring the groves near Nice come alive with their fragrance. To capture this exquisite scent, we send our agents into the groves at dawn. They gather the blossoms when the sun first touches them, for that is when their fragrance is at its most concentrated. Then they bring their fragrant bounty back to the distillery. Their skilled technicians gently coax the essence from the blossoms using a technique known as hydrodistillation. It takes dozens of blossoms to produce just a single ounce of the finished product. That is why orange blossom water is so expensive. But our master distiller has a secret. He is able to capture more than just the scent of these flowers. He captures something of the southern sunshine and the sea breezes that nurture these trees. So when you smell orange blossom water, you are actually smelling the south of France itself. As you measure the orange blossom water into a small glass bottle, I will explain to Madame Dubois how the essence was created, how the flowers were picked in the groves near Nice, how the blossoms were picked at dawn when their fragrance was most concentrated, how the distillation process captured not just the scent, but something of the southern sunshine and sea breezes that nurtured the trees. These explanations are as much a part of our craft as the technical skills of distillation. Our customers do not simply purchase perfume, they buy dreams. They purchase dreams of distant places, memories of gardens they will never see. The promise that beauty can transform the harsh realities of 18th century life into something more bearable. Late in the afternoon, after the shop is closed and the crowds have gone home, I begin the careful process of blending. This is perhaps the most delicate aspect of my work, requiring not just technical knowledge, but an almost musical sense of how different fragrances harmonize with one another. Imagine the bouquet of a fine wine, or the overtones of a well-crafted musical composition. That is what makes a truly great perfume. Balancing these fragrances is an art form. For today's blend, I am creating something special for the Comte de Bourville, a regular customer whose taste runs to the complex, sophisticated fragrances favored by the court at Versailles. Our first ingredient is a rare and valuable commodity called ambergris. It is a substance harvested from Wales. Sailors prize it for its ability to make other scents more lasting and more complex. I measure out a small amount of ambergris into a glass vial, and then I reach for another bottle filled with the fragrant oil of jasmine. Jasmine grows wild in many parts of the world, but the blossoms must be picked at night when the moon is full. This is the only way to capture their intoxicating fragrance. Using a glass rod no thicker than a wheat stem, I add a single drop of jasmine oil to the ambergris. Next, I reach for a bottle filled with the spicy scent of cinnamon bark. Only the highest quality spices from the East Indies are good enough for our clients. I add a touch of cinnamon, then test the blend on a strip of paper. This is a critical step, for a single drop too much or too little of any component could ruin the entire batch. I allow the fragrance to develop and change as I make these tiny adjustments. The Countess de Bourville has also requested rosato in her latest blend. Rosato is extracted from the petals of Bulgarian roses, and it takes thousands of blossoms to produce just a single ounce. I add a few drops of rosato to the mix and test it again. Still not quite right. Then I reach for one of our most exotic ingredients, a rare wood called agar wood, or as it's known in the trade, odra. Agar wood is harvested from trees in the jungles of India, and it is prized for its rich, woody fragrance. A single drop of sandalwood oil adds depth and complexity to the bouquet. Finally, I add a whisper of civet musk. Civet is an animal that resembles a small cat, and its musk is highly prized by perfumers. Using a special technique, I extract a tiny bit of civet musk and add it to the blend. With each addition, I test the mixture on a strip of blotting paper, allowing the fragrance to develop and change as the different oils marry and transform one another. Once I've added all the ingredients, I take a deep breath and admire the final concoction. It is something entirely new, not simply the sum of its parts, but a creation that exists nowhere else in the world. When the Countess in Bourville smells this perfume, she will be transported to a world of luxury and elegance. She will feel like a queen. You know, even though I was born in the slums of Paris, my life is not so bad. Sure, I work long and hard hours, and I'm constantly surrounded by the pungent aroma of exotic flowers and animal musk. But at least I get to do what I love. And besides, what could be more romantic than that? The sun dips towards the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. Inside your warm and fragrant workshop, the glow of the dying day filters through the windows, illuminating motes of dust dancing in the air. It's the end of another day in the life of an 18th century perfumer in Paris. Your morning began like so many others. With the soft light of dawn seeping through the window and rousing you from sleep, after a breakfast shared with your family, you set out for your workshop, eager to begin your labors. Though the chill of early morning still lingers in the air, your steps are light, your heart full of the quiet joys of a life well lived. As you unlock the door to your shop and step inside, the familiar scent of your trade envelops you like an old friend. It's a rich, layered fragrance, a testament to countless hours spent coaxing nature's secrets from flowers and herbs. Here, amidst the clutter of your craft, your day begins anew. First, the stills must be prepared for the day's work. Each one is a vessel of transformation, a copper alchemist ready to marry flour and fire in the creation of fragrant oils. The wicks are checked, the condensers polished until they gleam like burnished mirrors, ready to catch the first precious drops of distillate. Beside them, the alembics stand patiently, their bulbous shapes filled with the promise of future perfumes. Soon, the air will be thick with the scent of roses, lavender, and a myriad of other blossoms, each offering its unique essence to your skilled hands. As the fires are lit beneath the stills, the air grows heavy with anticipation. The flames, once small and eager, soon grow in strength, licking at the copper as if eager to devour the floral offerings placed within. The heat from the fires mingles with the rising steam, forming a hazy veil above the workbench. Through this ethereal mist, the flowers begin their slow surrender. Petals and leaves, carefully gathered and bundled, are lowered into the waiting stills. Each bundle is a prayer to the spirits of the earth, a plea to capture their essence, their fleeting beauty, and transform it into something eternal. Time stretches and contracts as the distillation begins. Hours pass in a near silence, broken only by the hiss of escaping steam and the crackle of the fire. It's a meditative process, one that demands patience, intuition, and a deep connection to the natural world. Every perfumer knows that the spirit of the flower, its very soul, is held within these few precious drops of distillate. To coax it forth requires a delicate balance of heat and time. As the fire reaches its crescendo, so does the scent in the workshop. The air grows thick with the fragrance of the flower, a heady perfume that fills every corner, saturates every surface. It's a scent that speaks of meadows in bloom, of forests bathed in sunlight, of a natural world teeming with life and beauty. Yet amidst this heady aroma, there's a certain sharpness, a clean, almost medicinal quality that speaks of the perfumer's skill. For in capturing the essence of the flower, he or she must also tame it, refine it, and shape it to the standards of their exacting art. In the 18th century, the art of perfumery was more than just a trade. It was a highly respected craft, one that demanded not only technical skill, but also an intimate knowledge of the natural world and an artistic sensibility. The perfumer was essentially a chemist, botanist, distiller, and aromatherapist all in one. They were the alchemists of fragrance, transforming humble flowers and herbs into exquisite perfumes and eau de cologne. The process was labor-intensive and required a great deal of patience and attention to detail. First, the plants had to be carefully selected and harvested at the peak of their aromatic powers. The perfumer knew that the quality of the final product depended on the purity and freshness of the plant material. Once gathered, the flowers had to be meticulously sorted and cleaned, with any wilted or damaged petals removed by hand. Only then were they ready to be distilled. The heart of the perfumer's workshop was the still, a complex piece of equipment that used heat to extract the volatile aromatic compounds from the plant material. The process of distillation was a delicate one, requiring constant monitoring to ensure that the temperature did not rise too high and destroy the delicate fragrance molecules. The resulting distillate, known as the hydrosol or flower water, was the essence of the plant, containing its unique fragrance and therapeutic properties. But the hydrosol was only the beginning. The perfumer would often redistill it to concentrate the fragrance or blend it with other distillates to create complex and nuanced scents. In addition to flowers and herbs, the perfumers also worked with animal products such as musk, civet, and ambergris. These ingredients were highly prized for their rich, complex aromas, but they were also very expensive and difficult to obtain. The perfumer's work was not just about creating pleasing scents, it was also about telling a story. Each fragrance was a composition, a carefully crafted blend of notes that evoked a particular mood or memory. The art of French perfumery in the 18th century was highly refined and followed a strict set of rules. A good perfume was judged on its balance, complexity, and longevity. The perfumer had to be a master of their craft, able to create fragrances that were both beautiful and unforgettable. By now, the sky outside has deepened to a rich, velvety blue, the color of twilight. The last rays of daylight linger in the workshop, casting long shadows that dance in the flickering lamplight. The air is thick with the scent of your latest distillation, a sweet, heady aroma that whispers of summer evenings in moonlit gardens. As you watch the distillate drip into the waiting flask, you feel a sense of satisfaction settle over you, which is the quiet that comes from a day's work well done. And yet there's still one more task to complete before you can leave your beloved workshop. The tools of your trade must be cleaned and prepared for the morrow. Each flask, beaker, and funnel must be scrubbed and dried, ready to receive the offerings of the next day's flowers. The stills themselves need tending, their copper surfaces polished to ensure they gleam brightly when the dawn arrives and the cycle begins anew. Amidst the quiet solitude of your workshop, the task of cleaning feels almost meditative. Your hands move with practiced ease, their movements as fluid and graceful as the petals you so carefully dissect. With each stroke of the cloth, you banish the remnants of the day's fragrance, making space for the new aromas that will soon fill these hallowed halls. As the final flask is set down, the workshop falls silent once more. The scent of roses and lavender mingling with the metallic temps of copper and the earthy aroma of beeswax. It's a fragrance unique to your space. A testament to the countless flowers that have graced these shelves and the countless perfumes that have been born here. Now, the fires are banked, the heavy iron lids placed atop the stills, ensuring that no precious vapors escape in the night. Outside, the darkness deepens, broken only by the twinkling lights of oil lamps beginning to dot the Parisian streets. Inside, you extinguish your own flame, leaving the last embers glowing softly in the darkness. You turn from the still, your hands lingering on the cool metal as if reluctant to leave the embrace of your craft. For a moment, you stand bathed in the orange glow of the dying fire, your silhouette outlined against the encroaching darkness. Then, with a final glance at the sleeping flowers, you lock up your workshop and step out into the cool night air. Paris at this hour is a city of shadows and secrets, the cobblestone streets slick and glistening in the lamplight. The scent of your wares hangs about you like a personal aura, a subtle reminder of the magic you create within those four walls. As you make your way through the winding streets, you feel the comforting weight of your tools on your shoulders, knowing that in your hands, they are more than just metal and wood. They are extensions of your very soul, instruments of beauty and transformation. Tomorrow, the cycle will begin anew. The sun will rise, painting the sky with the promise of a fresh start. And in your workshop, the flowers will awaken, their petals unfurling to greet the day. But for now, it's night. The stars are out and in the heart of Paris. An 18th-century perfumer dreams of blossoms and distillates, of roses and lavender under a sky full of stars. And here our journey through time ends for today. We hope you enjoyed this glimpse into the life of an 18th-century perfumer in Paris. If you'd like to experience more historical tales like this, please don't forget to subscribe. Until next time, may your days be filled with the fragrance of fresh blooms and the warmth of a craft well done. Welcome to my channel. Today, we are diving into the fascinating world of 18th-century French perfumes. Now, if you are already a fan of our series where historical figures create their own perfume houses, then you know what a treat this is for us. We've done Elizabeth I, Queen Victoria, and Marie Antoinette, just to name a few. And today we are adding another iconic figure to this list, the enigmatic Madame de Pompadour. If you are new here, do make sure to subscribe because we release a new episode every single week. And if you want to support our work, then please consider supporting us through the links in the description below. Let's get started. As the months pass in your perfumer's workshop, you begin to notice subtle changes in the requests that reach your counter. Ladies who once favored the simple lavender waters of provincial fashion now ask for more complex blends. The scents they desire speak of sophistication, of court intrigue, of a new kind of feminine power that is reshaping the very foundations of French society. They ask almost always for fragrances in the style of Madame de Pompadour. You have never met the king's mistress, but her influence permeates every aspect of your trade like the lingering trace of an expensive perfume in an empty room. Through the orders that cross your workbench, through the whispered conversations of your customers, through the very evolution of French taste itself, you witness the quiet revolution that one woman is orchestrating from the gilded chambers of Versailles. Jean Antoinette Poisonfour, that was her name before she became the Marquise, de Pompadour understood something that escaped most of the nobility of her time. She recognized that in the intricate dance of 18th century, politics power was not merely seized through force or inherited through blood, but could be cultivated through beauty, refined through taste, and wielded through the careful construction of desire itself. Picture the grand halls of Versailles, aglow with candlelight, the air thick with anticipation and the subtlest of scents. It's the autumn of 1745, and the Sun King, Louis XV, is about to turn 60. The court is a battleground of ambition, where nobles vie for the king's attention, hoping to catch his eye and secure their place in the royal court. But the king is weary of the usual sycophants, those who only seek to profit from the crown. He desires something different, someone who can offer him not just flattery, but genuine companionship, who can match his wit and intellect, while also captivating him with beauty and charm. Enter Jeanne de la Font, a young woman who, though born into relative obscurity, has a plan that will alter not just her own destiny, but the very course of French history. Her strategy is simple, yet audacious. She will reinvent herself, crafting an image so compelling that the king will not just notice her, but will actively seek her out, making her his confidant and partner. To accomplish this, she turns to the art form that has fascinated humans for centuries: perfume. In the 18th century, perfume was more than just a fragrance. It was a powerful tool of seduction, a way to make a lasting impression and create an aura of mystery and allure. Choosing the right scent was crucial, and Jean knew exactly what notes to hit. Her fragrance would be a testament to her transformation, a symbol of the new self she was creating. Now let's delve into the layers of this exquisite fragrance, each note telling a tale of Jean's journey to the heart of power. At its core, the fragrance opens with top notes of orange blossom and bergamot, bright and cheerful, suggesting the optimism and hope of new beginnings. These notes are like the first delicate brushstrokes of a painter, setting the stage for the masterpiece that is to come. As the fragrance develops, the middle notes emerge. A bouquet of Bulgarian rose, Spanish jasmine, and the finest orris root from the fields of Florence. The rose, with its timeless romanticism, speaks of Jean's innate femininity and charm. Jasmine, known for its heady, almost narcotic scent, hints at the intoxicating effect she will have on the king. Iris root adds an unexpected twist, a touch of powderiness and spice that elevates the fragrance, making it truly unique. These middle notes are the heart of the composition, the emotional core that captures the essence of Jean's transformation. They are the colors that the painter adds with confidence, bringing depth and emotion to the canvas. But any great work of art needs a foundation, a structure upon which the more ephemeral notes can play. And this is where the bass notes come in. Here, ambergris takes center stage, a rich, warm note that exudes luxury and permanence. This is the gold leaf that crowns the painting, giving it a sense of timeless elegance and power. Vanilla adds a touch of sweetness, a reminder of the humanity and warmth that even the most ambitious woman can possess. Finally, the rarest ingredient of all, odor, the excrement of the musk deer, adds an animalic, earthy depth that grounds the fragrance and makes it all the more irresistible. These base notes are the frame of the painting, the solid foundation that gives the artwork its shape and texture. Together, these notes form a harmonious whole, a fragrance that is at once delicate and powerful, innocent and knowing, playful and serious. It is a scent that tells the story of a woman who is not afraid to take what she wants, who knows her worth, and is willing to do whatever it takes to succeed. In the grand halls of Versailles, where candlelight flickered and secrets whispered, Jean Antoinette Poison, soon to be Madame de Pompadour, captured the essence of her ambition in a bottle. Her fragrance, a masterpiece of complexity and allure, became her signature, a scent that would forever be associated with her name. The king took notice. In fact, he took much more than notice. This was the beginning of a legendary tale, a story that would change the course of history. Versailles echoed with the soft tread of her elegant shoes, and soon enough, with the joyous echoes of her laughter. She became the Sun King's favorite, not just because of her clever repartee or her uncanny ability to anticipate his needs, but because of the fragrance that clung to her like a silken scarf, fragrance that spoke of a woman who had risen from obscurity to become the most powerful mistress in France. Each sniff of that unique aroma brought back memories of their first encounter, when the king had been captivated not just by her beauty, but by the mystery that swirled around her like the mist on a winter morning. That fragrance was her armor, her shield, her sword. It was her claim to the king's heart, and by extension, a slice of the French throne. But the story doesn't end there. The king's mistress became a legend, a trendsetter whose influence went beyond the hallowed halls of Versailles. Her favorite fragrance became a sensation. The nobility clamored to emulate her style, to capture a whiff of that elusive scent that had ensnared the hearts and minds of the French elite. Perfumes were bottled sunshine and moonlight, laughter and longing, triumph and desire. And in that small corner of a chemist's shop, the art of seduction was perfected. Every drop of the now famous fragrance was a tiny rebellion against convention. Silent scream of a woman who dared to dream big and smell even bigger. The popularity of her fragrance led to an explosion of imitations, each trying to capture the essence of the original. But falling short in the face of its creator's genius, for what was Madame de Pompadour's fragrance? Not a testament to the fact that one could not simply bottle a scent, but an experience, a feeling, a story. In the end, it became more than just a perfume. It became a phenomenon that left an indelible mark on French culture, paving the way for women to embrace their sensuality and power in a world dominated by men. And you, dear listener, are standing right in the middle of this aromatic revolution. The orders keep pouring in, and with each new request, you find yourself contributing to the legend of Madame de Pompadour. Your shop, once a quiet corner of provincial France, has become a hub of activity. Each bottle you fill is a vessel of untold stories, a conduit between the Sun King and his enigmatic mistress. In creating these fragrances, you are immortalizing a moment in time, capturing the essence of a love affair that has captured the imagination of an era. And as the years pass, you realize that you are not just a perfumer, but an artist. Your creations are not just products, they are works of art that evoke an age of elegance, sophistication, and unparalleled beauty. And at the heart of it all, the legend of Madame de Pompadour lives on. Her fragrance echoing through the corridors of Versailles and the bougiest drawing rooms of Paris. She is the master of this game, and she will teach you its rules. The top notes of her perfume are where her political genius truly shines. A whisper of bergamot provides brightness and intelligence, while a trace of white tea, a fashionable addition imported from the Orient, suggests worldliness and curiosity. The overall effect is of a woman who is both timelessly elegant and utterly contemporary, someone who respects tradition while embracing innovation. The heart of the fragrance, however, reveals the true nature of her power. Jasmine, a classic symbol of feminine allure, is here used to disarm and entrance those around her. Meanwhile, the unexpected addition of patchouli, an earthy and musky note, grounds the composition. Hinting at the determination and strength that lie beneath her refined exterior, it is a fragrance that tells a story of control and confidence, and it becomes the secret weapon of a woman who knows that in a world dominated by men, she must play by their rules while secretly writing a new playbook of her own. As the orders come in for her perfume, you realize that you are holding a key to her success. For each bottle you fill, you are also bottling a part of her soul, her relentless spirit, her unquenchable thirst for knowledge and power. Each fragrance becomes a small act of rebellion, a silent testament to a woman who refuses to be confined by the expectations of her time. At first glance, the world of 18th century France seems to offer little hope for such audacious ambition. You have seen enough ladies at court to know their priorities. Their days are filled with the pursuit of a good marriage, the acquisition of fine clothes and jewels, and the endless social niceties that maintain the delicate balance of the court. But none of these things interest her. She is not here to play the role of a demure and obedient wife or to waste her time on empty social rituals. She has come to the royal court with a different set of ambitions, and she will not be deterred by the countless obstacles placed in her path. Her gaze is sharp, her mind is quick, and she is not afraid to speak her mind. While other women giggle and gossip, she engages in lively debates about art, literature, and philosophy. And when the king enters the room, she holds his gaze, refusing to curtsy or look away. She is beautiful, yes, but it is a beauty that does not rely on obedience or submission. It is a beauty that shines with intelligence and spirit. And it is this rare combination of qualities that makes her so dangerous to the established order, so threatening to the rigid hierarchies and suffocating conventions of 18th century France. This is a woman who refuses to be put in a box, who will not be defined by the limitations others try to impose on her. And as you watch her navigate the treacherous waters of the royal court, you realize that she is playing a game by her own rules. She understands the importance of appearances, of looking the part if she wants to be taken seriously. She knows that in a world where women's value is often measured by their beauty and obedience, she must first appear to be a perfect little bird before she can hope to be heard. So she cultivates the image of a sweet and submissive young thing, all while concealing the steel beneath the velvet. She has arrived at the palace with a trunk full of fine clothes and an arsenal of wit and charm. With each passing day, she captivates the king's attention, not with coy smiles or demure glances, but with intelligent conversation and a fierce determination to live life on her own terms. While other women at court might use their beauty to secure advantageous marriages or advance their family's interests, she has no interest in playing the Game of Thrones. She wants something more, something different. Her strategy is not to seek out power, but to become indispensable to those who already possess it. She will surround herself with the finest artists, musicians, writers, and philosophers of the age, creating a salon where ideas flow as freely as the expensive wines, and where political decisions are shaped through seemingly casual conversations over elaborate dinners. She understands that in a world where women's voices are often silenced, she must be very careful not to attract too much attention. To do so would invite unwanted scrutiny and potential danger. So she works in the shadows, pulling strings and influencing decisions from behind the scenes. As the orders for her perfume grow, so does her reputation as a woman of exquisite taste and discernment. Everyone wants to be like her, to smell like her, to emulate her style and sophistication. And in doing so, they are only helping to solidify her position of power. After all, what better way to gain influence than by becoming a symbol of the very culture and society one wishes to shape? You see, she has arrived at the court with more than just ambition. She carries within her a radical vision for the role of women in a man's world. She sees the limitations placed upon them, the suffocating constraints of their roles as wives and mothers, the silencing of their voices in public life, the denial of their agency and autonomy. She recognizes the injustices and the prejudices that hold women back, and she yearns for a world where their potential is not stifled but celebrated. And so she takes the path less traveled. She refuses to accept the limitations imposed on her gender and sets out to carve her own path to power. She knows that she cannot do this by playing by the rules of the game, but by challenging them. She refuses to be defined by the roles and expectations of 18th century France. She challenges the status quo and demands to be seen as an individual with agency and autonomy. Through her choices, she inspires other women to do the same, to reject the confines of their societal roles and to fight for their own liberation as the orders pour in for her perfume. You realize that you are not just crafting a fragrance, you are helping to build a movement. Each bottle becomes a vessel of her defiant spirit, a silent testament to a woman who refuses to be held back by the expectations of her time. Her journey is not easy. There are times when she feels isolated and misunderstood, when she questions whether her dreams are too big for the world to handle, but she perseveres, driven by an unwavering belief in the power of her vision. And as she faces obstacles, she becomes even more determined to succeed, her resolve hardening with each setback. She understands that in a world that tries to keep women down, she must be willing to fight for her place at the table. She is more than willing to do whatever it takes to make her dreams a reality. She is a trailblazer, a pioneer for women's rights, a beacon of hope for a better future. And as the orders for her perfume continue to grow, so does her influence, her power, and her legacy. She leaves an indelible mark on the world, proving that women can achieve anything they set their minds to, and her story becomes a source of inspiration for generations to come. You are a perfumer in Versailles in the year 1742, for nearly 2 decades. You have run the most successful perfume shop in the Sun King's court, and every morning you wake up before dawn to begin the work that will make your shop famous throughout Europe, creating new recipes at the request of Madame de Pompadour, the king's mistress, and the most influential woman in France. Your first task is to read the letters that arrive during the night from various noble houses, all asking for more of the fragrance you created for their mistresses. The ones that repeat the same compliments on its originality, its refinement, its ability to make the wearer irresistible without overpowering the senses. The king's mistress receives hundreds of letters like these every day, and it is your job to see that she smells like heaven. For the king's mistress, perfume is more than just a way to cover up unpleasant odors. It is a tool for seduction, a weapon in her arsenal of influence over the indecisive monarch. But unlike the coarse perfumes favored by the women of the previous century, Pompadour's fragrances are subtle, complex, and utterly unique. In the evenings, after the king has retired to his chambers, you meet with her in her private apartments to discuss the latest missives from her network. She tells you about a young countess who wishes to seduce a visiting prince and asks if you can create a fragrance that will help turn the royal bachelor's head, or a famous actress whose perfume was stolen by a rival, leaving her desperate for a replacement before opening night. Even the king himself sometimes sends for you, requesting a custom scent to mark special occasions or impress visiting royalty. Each request is a chance for you to demonstrate your skill, to increase the already legendary reputation of Pompadour's fragrances. But it is also a test. For you must always remember that your success depends on pleasing the most powerful woman in the kingdom, whose own influence grew steadily thanks to your talent. The recipes that you create in her style reflect this sophisticated understanding of influence. Unlike the simple, single-note fragrances favored by earlier generations, Pompadour's perfumes are complex compositions that reveal different aspects of themselves throughout the day. They are designed to intrigue rather than overwhelm, to suggest rather than declare. To create the kind of lasting impression that builds influence gradually, but permanently. In your workshop, you experiment with the combinations that define her style. The challenge is to create fragrances that are luxurious enough to reflect her status, subtle enough to enhance rather than compete with her intelligence, and distinctive enough to be instantly recognizable as hers. Each blend becomes a small study in the art of wielding soft power, of exercising influence through beauty rather than force. And every morning when you rise, you know that you must capture that essence anew, adapting the grand composition to the delicate needs of her busy day. The most frequent request that reaches your counter is for Pompadour's morning scent, a lighter, more delicate version of her signature fragrance that she wears during her daily routine of correspondence meetings. With artists and architects and the careful cultivation of her extensive network of allies and dependents, you spend hours in the laboratory perfecting this morning blend, which must be light enough not to clash with her scented stationery or the perfume she uses to mark her handkerchief, yet it still must communicate the same message as her full evening fragrance. A declaration of her status and personality without being so cloying as to disturb the king while he sleeps late or tire out the nostrils of her many callers. Balancing these competing demands is a delicate task, requiring a perfumer's intuition and a thorough knowledge of the ingredients at your disposal. Citrus notes come from the addition of lemon or orange blossom, while flowers like rose and violet bring a touch of sweetness and powderiness. These elements mingle with the musk and woods that form the base of the fragrance, creating a scent that is both fresh and complex, innocent and alluring. The result is a perfume that embodies the very essence of Pompadour, a fragrance that is as multifaceted as its wearer, capable of captivating the senses while also opening pathways to the heart and mind. But the creation of this morning fragrance is only one aspect of your work. You also spend time experimenting with other variations of Pompadour's scent, each designed for a different purpose. There's the slaying scent, a lighter, airier version of her main fragrance for the chilly winter mornings when she drives with the king through the snowy parks of Versailles. There is the reception scent, a more opulent and spicy fragrance for the countless afternoons she spends graciously receiving guests in the royal apartments. And there is the theater scent, a heady, dramatic composition with notes of vanilla, and patchouli for those nights when she accompanies the king to the opera or the ballet. Each variation adds another layer to the mystique of Pompadour's personality, offering a glimpse into the inner world of the most fascinating woman of her age. As a purveyor of fine fragrances, you're expected not only to meet the demands of your most important client, but also to cultivate a wide range of scents that appeal to the tastes of the French nobility. For instance, you might receive a request for a new fragrance to celebrate the upcoming nuptials of two young nobles. A scent that reflects the joy and hope of the occasion, while also subtly hinting at the power and prestige that await the newlywed couple. Or perhaps you are asked to create a fragrance to commemorate the return of a favorite general from a long and bloody campaign. A scent that combines the sweetness of victory with the somber notes of remembrance. For those lost in the king's service, each new commission presents you with a unique challenge. It's forcing you to draw upon your vast knowledge of scent and the social niceties of the French court. In the evenings, after the king has retired to his chambers and the palace is quiet, you find yourself alone in your shop, surrounded by rows upon rows of bottles, each holding a universe of scent and memory. As you work, you think back over the many years you have spent in this tiny room, learning your trade from the best, experimenting with new ingredients and techniques, and eventually building up your own clientele of loyal customers. The walls of your shop are lined with letters and parcels from all over Europe. From nobles who heard about Pompadour's fragrances and wished to order some for themselves, your humble shop has become a hub of activity, a place where the most fragrant gossip is exchanged and the latest news from the court is discussed. You have watched the seasons change outside your window countless times, and with each passing year, your reputation has grown. The secret behind your success, your understanding of the true nature of perfume, not merely as a pleasant-smelling liquid, but as a language, a silent yet powerful way of communicating one's status, personality, and desires. And now, as you stand here in the quiet of the night, surrounded by the fruits of your labor, you feel a deep sense of satisfaction. You are more than just a perfumer. You are a storyteller, an alchemist who can transform simple ingredients into captivating narratives that linger in the air long after the bottle is empty. As the moon climbs higher in the sky, you continue your work, lost in the intoxicating world of scent, for you know that tomorrow will bring a new set of challenges and opportunities. And you wouldn't trade this life for all the riches in Versailles. Madame de Pompadour, as you know, has an apartment near yours in this vast palace complex. So each morning, when you arrive at your shop, you send a young apprentice over to her residence with a selection of new fragrances to try. She usually chooses one immediately, and then instructs you to deliver the rest to the king. Sometimes you get to overhear the conversations between the two of them when they speak through the keyhole entryway to your shop. The king is usually indecisive, asking for more details about the scent or suggesting changes to it. But Pompadour knows what she wants and isn't afraid to tell him so. "Perfect," she says to your apprentice one morning. "Tell the king that this is the one I want to wear this evening." Then she turns to you and asks, "What do you think, perfumer? Does this fragrance please you?" When you nod your head in approval, she gives you a small smile and says, "Then it is perfect." You don't often get to see Pompadour, but when you do, you notice that she exudes a certain Gi ne sais quoi that sets her apart from other women. Her dresses are always perfectly tailored, and her hair is always adorned with the latest fashions. But it's her perfume that truly makes her unforgettable. Whenever you enter her apartment, you catch a whiff of the fragrance you created for her. And it's like being transported to another world. You can almost hear the soft strains of a harpsichord playing in the background and see the flickering candlelight dancing on the walls. And when she finally appears in the doorway, you can't help but be captivated by her presence. Something about the way she carries herself, the way she speaks, the way she smells, makes you feel like you're in the presence of greatness. It's not just her perfume that makes Pompadour so irresistible. It's the way she uses it. She knows how to apply it just so, and how to move and gesture in a way that makes the scent follow her like a loyal pet. She understands the power of subtlety and knows how to use it to her advantage. Just a single spritz of her perfume is enough to fill a room with its exquisite aroma, and yet it never becomes overpowering or suffocating. It's like she has an invisible aura that surrounds her at all times, drawing people in and making them feel like they're part of something special. You've spent many hours in the company of the king's mistress, and yet you still can't quite figure her out. She's smart and funny and beautiful, but what intrigues you the most is her confidence. You've seen how she holds herself when she walks into a room, how she speaks to the king, and how she handles the most delicate of situations. And you can't help but be impressed. With every passing day, you find yourself drawn to her enigmatic nature, and you can't wait to see what new challenges and opportunities she'll bring your way. After all, you're not just a perfumer, you're an artist. and you know that the greatest works of art are often born out of the most unexpected sources of inspiration. And who knows? Maybe one day you'll create a fragrance so exquisite and unique that it will become the very essence of Pompadour herself. To fully appreciate the unique character of this fragrance house, we must revisit the source of its inspiration, the legendary Madame de Pompadour. This extraordinary woman was not just a royal mistress, but a cultural icon, a fashion trendsetter, an art patron, a key player in the political intrigues of 18th century France. Our fragrance house captures her essence. But what was that essence? What made Pompadour who she was? And how does it translate into our unique brand of fine fragrance? Her story began in humble circumstances, and she clawed her way out through sheer force of personality and intellect, ultimately capturing the heart and the ear of the Sun King, Louis XV. But her relationship with the king was just one facet of a multifaceted life. Pompadour navigated the treacherous waters of courtly politics with skill and panache, all while presiding over salons that became the center of intellectual and artistic movements. Her influence extended to fashion, where she set trends that were copied from the streets of Paris to the drawing rooms of Versailles. But perhaps what made Pompadour truly remarkable was her unapologetic femininity. In a time when women's roles were rigidly defined, she defied expectations and carved out a space for herself based on her own terms. While some might have seen her as a femme fatale, a dangerous seductress, we see her as a trailblazer. A woman who used her feminine wiles not as weapons, but as tools of empowerment. It was this complexity, this contradiction between her origins and her achievements, between her femininity and her power, that made Pompadour such a fascinating figure. It is this complexity that our fragrance house seeks to capture in every bottle. Now let's talk about the most critical element of our brand, the fragrances themselves. Each scent is a carefully constructed narrative, a story that unfolds on your skin like a whispered secret. Some are inspired by Pompadour's rise from humble beginnings to the heights of power, while others capture the essence of her legendary beauty and charm. There are fragrances that evoke the grandeur of Versailles, as well as those that whisper of the intimate moments shared between the Sun King and his beloved mistress. Each scent is like a brushstroke on the canvas of our olfactory memory, leaving an indelible impression of the extraordinary world in which Madame de Pompadour lived and breathed. As we delve deeper into the world of fine fragrance, you'll discover that each of our scents is more than just a collection of aromatic molecules. They are portals to other times, to other places, to other emotions. With each spritz, you're transported to a different era, a different ambience, a different facet of the multifaceted life of Madame de Pompadour. The political dimensions of her perfume choices become apparent when you consider their timing. During periods of military crisis, when Louis XV faces criticism for his expensive wars and failed policies, Pompadour's scents tend toward the more conservative, emphasizing traditional French flowers and classic compositions that speak of stability and continuity. When she is promoting new artistic projects or supporting controversial philosophers like the infamous Voltaire, her fragrances become more adventurous, incorporating exotic ingredients and unexpected combinations that suggest openness to innovation. You begin to understand that Madame de Pompadour's perfumes are not mere personal indulgences, but carefully crafted tools of statecraft. Each scent she wears sends messages to different audiences. To the king, it speaks of her continuing ability to surprise and delight him. To the court, it demonstrates her unshakable confidence in her position. To the people of France, it suggests that their taxes are being spent on beauty and culture rather than merely on military adventures. It's through these acts of fragrant diplomacy that Pompadour solidified her position at the Sun King's side, all while becoming a cultural icon of her age. Now, let's imagine a scenario that encapsulates the essence of our brand, the creation of the most complex fragrance you ever made in Pompadour's style. Picture it. The year is 1756. You are a renowned perfumer working in the elegant parlors of Versailles, where the very air is thick with the scent of intrigue and the delicate aroma of fine perfume. Your latest commission is a puzzle, a challenge, and a potential triumph, all in one. The client is a duchess who moves in Pompadour's inner circle, a woman of taste and refinement who embodies the elegance and allure of the French aristocracy. She has come to you seeking a fragrance that will be appropriate for uncertain times. France's coffers are lighter, The king's health is failing, and the looming threat of war casts a long shadow over the once carefree atmosphere of Versailles. The Duchess, like many members of the court, finds solace in the rituals of beauty and the comforting traditions of the past. She requests a scent reminiscent of Madame de Pompadour, but also something uniquely hers. A fragrance that speaks of loyalty to the mistress while acknowledging the gravity of the political situation. You understand that she is asking for something that will demonstrate confidence in troubled times. A perfume that is at once patriotic and cosmopolitan, luxurious and restrained, confident and aware of its responsibilities. With this brief in mind, you enter your laboratory, a sanctuary filled with rows upon rows of aromatic treasures. The heart of your workshop is a large antique table crafted from dark, rich wood, its surface worn smooth by countless perfumery experiments.
Ow.
Around it are bottles of every shape and size, each containing a different facet of your craft, from the sharp, biting citrus of bergamot to the sweet, heady notes of tuberose. From the woody depths of oud to the airy lightness of hedion, each ingredient is like a brushstroke on a painter's palette, ready to be combined and layered to create a masterpiece of scent. First, you reach for the traditional French lavender. It's clean, herbal aroma anchoring the composition like a steadfast ally. Next, you add rose, not just any rose, but one grown in the legendary gardens of the Château de Pompadour itself. Its velvety petals whispering tales of the Sun King's former mistress. As the base, you choose a whisper of frankincense and myrrh, their rich balsamic scent adding depth and complexity to the fragrance. These ingredients are not just aromatic, they are symbolic. Lavender and rose speak of France's cultural heritage, while frankincense and myrrh hint at the solemnity of the times. It's a delicate balance, a tightrope walk between tradition and change, between opulence and austerity, between boldness and restraint. You work tirelessly, your nose leading the way, your hands moving with practiced grace, measuring and mixing until you achieve the perfect harmony. Finally, after days of labor, the fragrance is complete. You name it, Souvenir de Triomphe, a tribute to the enduring spirit of France and a nod to the Duchess's loyalty to Madame de Pompadour. The finished product is more than just a scent. It's a testament to the human spirit, its ability to find beauty and strength in the darkest of times. As the Duchess arrives to collect her prize, you watch as she inhales the fragrance, her eyes lighting up with delight and recognition. She understands that in these uncertain times, beauty is not a distraction, but a source of strength. A reminder that even in the face of adversity, life goes on. And with that understanding comes a profound appreciation for your craft, for the power of perfume to evoke memories, to inspire confidence, and to remind us of the simple pleasures in life. In that moment, you know that you have created something truly special. A fragrance that will not just adorn the Duchess, but become an emblem of resilience and grace. So what do you get when you cross the most influential woman in 18th century France with the greatest perfumer of all time? Scent so exquisite it transcends time itself. Allow me to introduce you to Madame de Pompadour. Born Jean Lesage in 1724, she was a woman who needed no introduction. By age 23, she had already caught the eye of the Sun King himself, Louis XIV. Now initially, her relationship with the king was purely physical. However, as the years rolled by, their bond deepened into something akin to a marriage of minds. This was a man who ruled over one of the most powerful nations in the world, and she, a simple noblewoman with a quick wit and an even quicker mind. She became his equal in every sense, advising him on matters of state and gracing him with her presence at important events. Throughout this extraordinary partnership, she took great pleasure in the finer things in life, especially perfume. Her favorite scents evolved alongside her relationship with the king, becoming more intricate and intellectual as their bond deepened. But it wasn't just about masking any unpleasant odors. No, these perfumes were a form of self-expression, a way to communicate her evolving role in the king's life and the court. When the king first set eyes on her, she was just another pretty face in the crowd. However, with each passing year and each new fragrance she wore, she elevated herself in his esteem, moving from the bedroom to the throne room. But as the years passed and the nature of her relationship with the king shifted, so did the scents she favored. They moved from light and airy to rich and complex, much like the layers of an onion or the wrinkles of an aging statesman. These weren't just pleasant-smelling concoctions. They were statements, declarations of a love that defied the boundaries of social convention. And so it was that you decided to create a fragrance fit for a queen, or rather a mistress, someone who commanded both the heart and the mind of the most powerful man in France. You started with a base note of aged sandalwood, a rich, warm wood that spoke of enduring strength and unwavering support. Upon this, you layered the delicate floral notes of white tea and bergamot, suggesting her continuing intellectual curiosity and refined taste. Then came the heart of the fragrance, a blend of iris and violet, which evoked the nobility she had achieved not through birthright, but through her own efforts and the esteem in which the king held her. Finally, you added a whisper of bitter orange, so subtle it could almost be mistaken for a figment of one's imagination. This was the secret ingredient, the one that gave the fragrance its depth and complexity, hinting at the sacrifices she had made to achieve her position without ever resorting to anything overtly animalic or base. The finished product was a masterpiece, a symphony of scents that told the story of a woman who had captured the heart and mind of a king. It was a fragrance that acknowledged both her triumphs and tragedies, her power and its cost, the sweetness of her success and the bitter pill of immortality. For as the saying goes, beauty may fade, but a well-crafted fragrance, it can last forever. Madame de Pompadour may have lived a life of luxury and privilege, but she was all too aware of the fleeting nature of beauty. Yet she knew that true influence was something that could endure long after her looks had faded. And so she used her position and power to cultivate an image that would outlive her, to create a legacy that would be remembered long after her scent had faded from the air. As the years passed and the king's health began to fail, she turned her attention to the arts and literature. Becoming a patron of some of the greatest thinkers and creators of her time, with their help, she created a cultural salon that became the center of intellectual and artistic life in Paris, attracting some of the brightest minds in Europe. But perhaps more importantly, she understood the power of scent and used it to great effect. When the king died in 1715, she knew that her position would be in jeopardy. But instead of cowering in the face of adversity, she used her wits and intelligence to secure her place in the new court. She quickly ingratiated herself with the new monarch, Louis XV, and became the most influential woman in the kingdom once again. In many ways, she was a trailblazer, a woman who carved out her own path to power and influence in a world that was still largely dominated by men. And yet she was also deeply human, a woman who used her beauty and intellect to great advantage, but who was all too aware of its limitations. She understood that beauty fades, but that a life well lived can leave a lasting legacy. And so she used her time in the spotlight to make a real difference, to leave the world a better place than she found it. In doing so, she became a true icon, a woman whose story continues to resonate with us today. Welcome to my workshop. Here, amidst the velvet curtains and antique bottles, I bring to life the sense of history's most intriguing women. Today, I am creating a perfume inspired by the life of the most influential woman of the 18th century. A woman whose beauty and intelligence combine to create a legacy that continues to inspire today. As I measure and blend the ingredients, I am transported back to the world of the French court, where the air is thick with the scent of jasmine and the sound of harpsichords. The year is 1750, and the woman I am about to immortalize in a bottle is not yet 25 years old. Her name is Jean Antoinette Poisson, but soon she will discard that life like a discarded perfume, adopting instead the name of the Marquise de Pompadour. Jean was born into obscurity, the daughter of a middle-class family in Paris. But her beauty was so dazzling that it quickly made her a fixture of the city's social scene. Soon, the king's attention is drawn to her, and she becomes his mistress, giving birth to a son who will be legitimized and ennobled as the Count of Vermandois. But Jean is no ordinary woman. While other mistresses might have been content to play the role of the king's favorite, Jean uses her position to cultivate a more lasting form of influence. She becomes the king's partner in statecraft, advising him on matters of culture and taste, shaping the very essence of the Rococo era. Her influence is felt throughout the court of Versailles, The privileged few are elevated to the heights of fashion and the king's favor. And as I add a touch of orange blossom to the mix, I am reminded of the sun-drenched gardens of Versailles, where the king and his mistress stroll together, their laughter echoing through the manicured hedges. Yet for all of her influence, there are those who would see her fall from grace. Her rivals at court are many, and they conspire to tarnish her reputation, whispering that her beauty is the product of witchcraft and sorcery. But Jean is not one to be intimidated. With the help of her loyal servants, she fights back against her detractors, using her wit and intelligence to defend her honor. And as I blend the floral notes with the rich aroma of vanilla, I am reminded of the power of feminine wiles, the subtle art of persuasion that Jean mastered so well. But our story does not end here, for Jean's influence extends far beyond the courts of Europe. In a world where colonialism is rapidly changing the global balance of power, she recognizes the importance of cultivating beauty and luxury as a form of soft power. As I add a hint of musk to the fragrance, I am transported to far-flung corners of the colonial world, where exotic ingredients are being harvested and shipped back to France to be used in the very perfumes that will make her famous. From India, she acquires rare and precious woods that will give her perfumes a unique and unforgettable character. And as I seal the bottle with a wax seal bearing her crest, I am reminded of the long sea voyages that these ingredients underwent, traversing continents and oceans to reach the perfumers of Paris. But perhaps the most important ingredient of all is the woman's touch, the delicate and refined sensibility that sets these perfumes apart from the more common scents of the day. As I take the finished bottle into the fading light of the workshop, I am struck by the irony of her situation. For in a world where power is often measured in land and gold, this woman has created a different kind of legacy, one that speaks to the power of beauty, taste, and refinement. Though she may not have commanded armies or ruled a kingdom, her influence over the cultural and intellectual life of an entire age is undeniable. And as I look out over the rooftops of Paris, I imagine the scent of these perfumes wafting through the streets, carrying with them the spirit of a woman who dared to be beautiful, brilliant, and powerful in a world that tried to tell her she could only be two of those things. The woman who began as Jean Antoinette Poison and became the Marquise de Pompadour understood that true power in the 18th century belonged not to those who could command armies.
The middle notes present a more complex puzzle. One memoir mentions that the king's evening fragrance reminded the writer of the gardens of Trianon in twilight, while another describes it as carrying the scent of distant kingdoms. These poetic descriptions suggest a blend that somehow captured both the familiar luxury of Versailles and the exotic mystery of France's expanding colonial empire. Your reconstruction attempts focus on combining French roses with spices from the Indies cardamom, perhaps, or the rare long pepper that was sometimes used in 18th century perfumery. The challenge lies in achieving a balance that would have been both comforting and stimulating, familiar enough to provide solace, but complex enough to maintain the interest of a king who had access to the finest luxuries of his age. The top notes of El Hura Bleu du Rye remain the most elusive element of your reconstruction. The only direct reference appears in a letter from a courtier who describes the fragrance as beginning with the brightness of bergamot tempered by something darker, like the shadows that gather in the corners of great rooms. As evening falls, this cryptic description suggests a combination of citrus, with something more mysterious, perhaps a touch of the black tea that was becoming fashionable among the French nobility, or a hint of the bitter orange that was sometimes used to add complexity to otherwise sweet compositions. As you work with these theoretical combinations in your workshop, testing different proportions and aging processes, you begin to understand that you are not simply trying to recreate a perfume, but to decode a form of emotional communication. The scents worn by the nobility of Versailles were not random choices, but carefully constructed expressions of their innermost selves. Their hopes, fears, and dreams translated into the universal language of fragrance. Another lost scent that haunts your research is Larmes de la Reine, the Queen's Tears. This fragrance is mentioned in the private papers of Marie Antoinette's Perfumer, a craftsman who worked exclusively for the royal family until his death in 1788. The references suggest that Larmes de la Reine was created during the Queen's periods of particular stress or sorrow, a comfort scent designed to provide emotional support during the increasingly difficult final years of the monarchy. The poetic name itself provides clues to the fragrance's character. Tears suggest both sadness and cleansing, both vulnerability and the capacity for renewal. Your reconstruction attempts focus on creating a scent that would have been simultaneously heartbreaking and hopeful, acknowledging the Queen's sorrows while offering the promise of better times to come. The base of Larmes de la Reine, according to your analysis, likely centered on white sandalwood, chosen for its ability to provide comfort without being overpowering. This would have been combined with a touch of benzoin, the ricinus extract that was often used in 18th century perfumery to add sweetness and depth. The overall foundation would have been warm and enveloping, like being wrapped in the finest silk during a moment of private grief. The heart of the fragrance presents a more complex challenge. The surviving descriptions speak of flowers that bloom at night, of gardens viewed through windows clouded with tears, of beauty that persists even in the midst of sorrow. Your experiments focus on combining tuberose, that intoxicating night-blooming flower, with lily of the valley, whose delicate sweetness speaks of innocence and hope. To these, you add touches of iris, the flower that was sacred to the French monarchy, and whose subtle complexity seems appropriate for a queen who was both naive and sophisticated, both beloved and reviled. The top notes of Larmes de la Reine require the most delicate handling. They must capture the immediate emotional impact of the fragrance while setting the stage for its deeper, more complex development. Your research suggests a combination of fresh pear essence, rare and expensive in the 18th century, with a whisper of green leaves, perhaps from the lime trees that grew in the gardens of Versailles. The overall effect would have been of a fragrance that began with the bright freshness of hope, before settling into something more profound and lasting. As you work on these reconstructions, you become increasingly aware of the technical challenges faced by 18th century perfumers. The ingredients they used were often inconsistent in quality, affected by variations in climate, harvesting methods, and storage conditions. A rose oil from grass might smell completely different from one year to the next, depending on the weather during the growing season and the skill of the particular distiller who processed the flowers. This variability means that your reconstruction attempts must account for a range of possibilities, rather than seeking a single, definitive formula. The perfumers of Versailles were not working with standardized materials, but with the products of a natural world that changed with each season, each harvest, each moment of creation. They had to be artists as much as craftsmen, capable of adapting their formulas to the materials at hand, while maintaining the overall character of their signature scents. The most mysterious of the lost fragrances in your collection is known only as Le Secret du Dauphin, the Dauphin's Secret. This scent is mentioned in a single document, a letter from the court perfumer to his apprentice, discussing a commission for the king's son that required the utmost discretion and the rarest ingredients. The letter provides no details about the fragrance itself, only the cryptic instruction that it should speak of future greatness while acknowledging present limitations. Your attempts to understand Le Secret du Dauphin begin with the historical context of its creation. The Dauphin Louis, heir to the French throne, was known to be a sensitive and intelligent young man who struggled with the weight of his future responsibilities. The perfume, you theorize, was designed to provide him with confidence and comfort during his preparation for kingship, to help him project the authority he would need, while acknowledging the very human anxieties that any thoughtful person would feel when contemplating such an enormous responsibility. The challenge of reconstructing Le Secret du Dauphin lies in balancing these contradictory requirements. The fragrance needed to be masculine enough for a future king, while being subtle enough to avoid competing with his father's established scents. It had to project confidence without arrogance, authority without coldness, sophistication without pretension. These requirements suggest a composition of extraordinary complexity, requiring ingredients and techniques that would have pushed the boundaries of 18th-century perfumer. Your experimental blends for Le Secret du Dauphin focus on rare woods and precious resins, ingredients that would have been both expensive enough to befit a prince and distinctive enough to set him apart from the other courtiers. The base might have included agarwood from Southeast Asia, prized for its complex, evolving scent that deepens and changes over time. To this, you add touches of frankincense from the Horn of Africa, chosen for its ability to add spiritual depth without overwhelming the other elements. The heart of the fragrance presents the greatest challenge, as it must capture the essence of future greatness, while remaining grounded in the reality of youth and inexperience. Your experiments combine cedar from the Lebanon mountains, a wood associated with kings and temples throughout history, with a subtle blend of French lavender and Mediterranean herbs. The overall effect should suggest both the ancient traditions of monarchy and the fresh energy of youth, both the weight of history and the promise of renewal. As you work on these reconstructions, you begin to understand that the lost fragrances of Versailles represent more than just vanished scents. They are the olfactory archaeology of an entire civilization. Each fragrance tells a story about the people who wore it, the society that created it, and the values and aspirations of an age that has passed into history. The process of reconstruction requires not just technical skill, but historical imagination, the ability to understand how scent functioned in a world where bathing was infrequent, where social hierarchies were absolute, where the difference between nobility and commoner could be detected not just through clothing and behavior, but through the very fragrances that surrounded each person. Your workshop becomes a laboratory of time travel, where each successful reconstruction brings you closer to understanding the sensory world of 18th century France. The fragrances you create are not just perfumes, but windows into a vanished past, allowing you to experience something of what it might have felt like to walk through the halls of Versailles, to attend the elaborate court ceremonies, to participate in the complex social rituals that defined aristocratic life. The most profound moment in your research comes when you achieve what you believe to be a successful reconstruction of El Hura Bleu du Rye. As the fragrance develops on your skin, moving through its carefully orchestrated progression from bright top notes to deep, complex base notes, you experience a moment of connection across the centuries. For a brief instant, you share something of the private world of Louis Roman XV, understanding perhaps a fragment of how he might have felt during those evening hours when the burdens of kingship were temporarily set aside. The tragedy of these lost fragrances lies not just in their disappearance, but in what their loss represents about the fragility of human culture. The perfumers who created these masterpieces were artists whose medium was more ephemeral than paint or stone, whose creations existed only in the moment of their perception and in the memories of those who experienced them. When the revolution swept away the world of Versailles, it destroyed not just buildings and institutions, but an entire sensory culture that had taken centuries to develop. Your reconstruction efforts represent a form of cultural resurrection, an attempt to restore to the world something of the beauty and complexity that was lost when the old order collapsed. Each fragrance you successfully recreate is a small victory against the forces of time and forgetting, a testament to the enduring power of human creativity and the persistent desire to preserve beauty even in the face of destruction. As you carefully store your latest experimental blend in the cabinet of lost scents, you reflect on the deeper meaning of your work. You are not simply a perfumer, but a custodian of memory, a guardian of the cultural heritage that survives only in fragments and requires constant effort to keep alive. Through your patient research and careful experimentation, you participate in the ongoing human effort to understand and preserve the achievements of previous generations, to ensure that the beauty they created continues to enrich the world long after its creators have passed into history. The lost scents of Versailles remain, in many ways, forever lost. Their exact formulations vanished with the craftsmen who created them. Their true character, known only to those who experienced them in their original context. But through your reconstructions, something of their essence survives, offering future generations a glimpse into the sophisticated olfactory world of 18th century France and the remarkable artistry of the perfumers who created fragrances that were worthy of kings and queens. The gilt carriage draws to a halt outside the Hôtel de Soubise, and as you step down onto the cobblestones with your leather satchel of precious vials, you enter a world where fragrance is not merely worn, but orchestrated, where scent becomes part of an elaborate daily performance that defines the very essence of aristocratic life. You have been summoned to attend the Duchesse de Polignac during her afternoon toilette, that sacred ritual which transforms a woman of noble birth into a living work of art. The year is 1775, and you are about to witness the intricate ceremony through which the French elite transform the simple act of personal grooming into a complex social and aesthetic performance. In this rarefied world, every aspect of dress, deportment, and decoration carries meaning, and fragrance serves as both the foundation and the culmination of a carefully constructed identity. The footman who admits you to the hotel moves with the silent efficiency that marks all interactions in this elevated sphere. He leads you through corridors lined with tapestries that tell stories of ancient victories, past marble statues that speak of classical learning, beneath crystal chandeliers that fragment the afternoon light into countless dancing rainbows. The very air you breathe carries layers of scent beeswax from polished floors, rose water from hidden sachets, the faint trace of incense from the private chapel, and underneath it all, the complex bouquet of human ambition refined into its most elegant expression. You are ushered into the Duchess's boudoir, a chamber that exists solely for the purpose of transformation. The walls are covered in silk, the color of seafoam, painted with delicate scenes of shepherds and shepherdesses that speak of a romanticized countryside that exists only in the imagination of those who have never worked the land. The furniture is crafted from woods so rare and precious that each piece represents the labor of master craftsmen working with materials that traveled thousands of miles to reach this room. But it is the toilette table that commands your attention, a masterpiece of marquetry and bronze that serves as the altar for the daily miracle of aristocratic presentation. Its surface gleams with an array of implements that would not be out of place in an alchemist's laboratory. Silver brushes with handles carved like swan necks, crystal bottles that catch and refract the light, Ivory combs so delicate they seem carved from moonbeams. And everywhere's the glittering evidence of wealth so vast that it has been transformed into pure aesthetic pleasure. The Duchess herself reclines in a chair that is less furniture than throne, its upholstery matching the wall coverings, and its proportions calculated to display the human form to greatest advantage. She is perhaps 35 years old, though the careful maintenance of her appearance makes precise age determination impossible. Her skin has the porcelain perfection that comes from a lifetime of protection from sun and wind. Her hands show no trace of labor more strenuous than the lifting of a teacup, and her posture speaks of decades of training in the precise art of aristocratic deportment. But it is her scent that announces her true status even before she speaks. The fragrance that surrounds her is a masterpiece of layered complexity, built up over the course of the morning through a series of applications so precisely timed and carefully coordinated that they create an ever-evolving symphony of scent that will carry her through the social obligations of the day. Monsieur Renard, she acknowledges your presence with a slight inclination of her powdered head. I trust you have brought the new blend. We discussed her voice carries the musical quality that marks the French aristocracy. Each syllable precisely enunciated, each pause calculated for maximum effect. Even in this intimate setting, she performs her role with the conscious artistry of an actress who never steps out of character. You open your satchel and remove the crystal bottle that contains your latest creation of fragrance, designed specifically for the Duchess's afternoon social engagements. The composition reflects the complex requirements of her position, sophisticated enough to demonstrate her refinement, distinctive enough to be memorable, subtle enough to enhance rather than overwhelm her natural charms, and costly enough to remind everyone of her family's vast wealth. But before this new fragrance can be applied, you witness the elaborate ritual through which the Duchess's existing scent is refreshed and adjusted. Her lady's maid, a woman whose entire career has been devoted to the service of beauty, begins the process with movements so practiced they have become a form of dance. First comes the powder, applied with brushes of such softness that they seem made from clouds rather than hair. The powder itself is not merely cosmetic but aromatic, infused with orris root and finely ground pearls that add both fragrance and luminescence to the skin. As the maid works, moving from the Duchess's décolletage upward toward her face, she creates clouds of scented dust that catch the afternoon light streaming through the tall windows. The powder serves multiple purposes beyond mere beauty. In an age when bathing is infrequent and deodorants unknown, it absorbs the natural oils and odors of the human body, while replacing them with carefully chosen fragrances. But more than that, it creates a barrier between the Duchess's natural self and the world, transforming her into something more than merely human, a living artwork, whose every surface has been consciously designed for aesthetic pleasure. As the powder is applied, you observe the careful attention paid to scent layering. The powder carries its own fragrance, but this is designed to complement rather than compete with the other elements of the Duchess's aromatic presentation. The orris root provides a soft, floral foundation, while the pearl dust adds a subtle mineralic note that speaks of luxury beyond the reach of ordinary mortals. Next comes the attention to her hair, that elaborate architectural marvel that has required 3 hours of construction by a specialist coiffeur. The powdered wig for even the Duchess's natural hair is augmented by artificial additions, is not merely styled but perfumed, with tiny sachets of lavender and rose petals hidden within its complex structure. As she moves throughout the day, these hidden reservoirs will release gentle whispers of fragrance, creating an ever-changing olfactory environment that follows her like an invisible entourage. The process of perfuming the hair requires its own specialized techniques. The maid uses a small silver atomizer, its reservoir filled with a delicate solution of rose water and orange blossom, to create a fine mist that settles onto the powdered curls without disturbing their careful arrangement. The fragrance must be strong enough to be perceptible, but subtle enough not to clash with the other scents that will be applied to different parts of the body. You watch as attention turns to the Duchess's hands, those expressive instruments that will spend the afternoon wielding fans, handling teacups, and gesturing in the elaborate sign language of aristocratic conversation. Each fingernail is buffed to a pearl-like luster, and then treated with a minute application of scented oils, different fragrances for different fingers, creating a subtle olfactory keyboard that will release various notes as she moves through her social interactions. The palms of her hands receive their own treatment, a complex blend that includes sandalwood for its lasting power, bergamot for its brightness, and the faintest touch of ambergris for its ability to enhance and fix other fragrances. When she extends her hand to be kissed, a gesture that will occur dozens of times during the afternoon's social calls, each contact will leave a memorable impression not just of her beauty, but of her sophisticated approach to sensory pleasure. Now comes the moment for your new creation, the fragrance that will serve as the capstone of this elaborate construction. The Duchess extends her wrist with the gesture of a queen offering her hand to be kissed, and you apply the merest touch of your latest blend to the pulse point where it will be warmed by her blood and carried by her movements throughout the afternoon. The fragrance you have created specifically for her reflects both her personal preferences and her social position. The base notes speak of established wealth, rare oud from the kingdoms of Arabia, aged sandalwood from the Indian subcontinent, a whisper of genuine ambergris that costs more per ounce than most people earn in a year. These deep, complex scents will provide the foundation for everything that develops above them. The solid base notes in the symphony of her afternoon presentation. The middle notes reflect her sophisticated taste and cosmopolitan connections. Here you have combined Bulgarian rose otto with jasmine from the plantations of Grasse, creating a floral heart that is both traditionally French and exotically international. To these classics, you have added touches of white tea, that fashionable import from the Orient that speaks of her awareness of global trends, and a hint of cardamom that suggests both spice and sophistication. The top notes are where your artistry truly shines, creating the immediate impression that will greet everyone who enters her presence. You have chosen bergamot for its brightness and intelligence, pink grapefruit for its vivacious charm, and the faintest whisper of champagne essence, a recent innovation that captures the effervescent joy of celebration in liquid form. The overall effect is of a fragrance that announces itself with joy and confidence before settling into something deeper and more complex. As the fragrance begins to develop on her skin, warming and changing as it reacts with her body chemistry, you observe the subtle transformation that occurs in the Duchess's demeanor. The application of perfume is not merely cosmetic but psychological, the final element that completes her transformation from private individual to public persona. With her scent in place, she becomes fully herself, or she becomes the carefully constructed version of herself that she will present to the world. The Duchess rises from her chair with a rustling of silk that releases fresh waves of fragrance from the sachets hidden in the folds of her dress. Her gown itself is part of the aromatic performance, its fabric treated with rose water and stored with bundles of dried lavender. As she moves, different scents emerge and blend, creating an ever-changing bouquet that ensures she never presents exactly the same olfactory impression twice. You accompany the Duchess as she begins her afternoon rounds, observing how fragrance functions in the complex social ecosystem of aristocratic Paris. Her first stop is the salon of Madame de Maintenon, where the city's most influential women gather to discuss literature, politics, and the endless intrigue that defines court life. As the Duchess enters the room, her scent announces her presence before she speaks, creating an immediate impression of sophistication and wealth that establishes her position in the social hierarchy. The salon itself is a masterclass in aromatic orchestration. Each woman present wears her own distinctive fragrance, but these have been chosen with careful attention to how they will interact with others in the confined space. The result is not chaos but harmony, a complex blend of individual scents that creates an overall impression of refinement and luxury. Servants move through the room with silver censers, adding touches of frankincense and myrrh that provide a unifying base note for the assembled company. You observe how the women use their fans not merely for cooling, but as instruments of scent distribution, each flutter releasing carefully calculated puffs of fragrance that carry their presence across the room. When they embrace in greeting that elaborate ritual of air kissing that allows for maximum display while minimizing the risk of disturbing carefully arranged cosmetics, they exchange not just social pleasantries, but aromatic information, each woman's scent mixing briefly with her friends to create momentary blends that speak of alliances, preferences, and social positioning. The conversation in the salon flows around topics that would be considered frivolous by those outside this rarefied world, but you begin to understand that discussions of fashion, fragrance, and artistic taste serve functions far beyond mere entertainment. In a society where political power is concentrated in the hands of a few men, women exercise influence through the cultural sphere, shaping taste and opinion through the careful cultivation of aesthetic preferences. As the afternoon progresses, you witness how the Duchess's fragrance evolves and changes, different notes becoming prominent as her body temperature rises and falls. As she moves between the warm interior of the salon and the cooler air of the garden, where some guests have withdrawn for more private conversations, the perfume you created serves as a kind of olfactory wardrobe, providing different impressions for different moments while maintaining an overall coherence that marks it as distinctively hers. The sophistication of this aromatic performance becomes most apparent during the elaborate ritual of afternoon tea. As the Duchess raises her cup to her lips, the steam from the hot liquid carries the fragrance from her hands and wrists upward, creating a complex blend of tea, perfume, and the scented powder on her face. Each sip becomes a multisensory experience that engages not just taste but smell, creating memories that will be triggered whenever she encounters similar combinations of scent and flavor. The other women present participate in their own versions of this aromatic theater. You observe how Lady Beauvau has chosen a fragrance dominated by white flowers that complement the jasmine tea she favors, while the Comtesse de Polignac wears a spicier blend that harmonizes with the cinnamon pastries she prefers. Every choice has been made with conscious artistry, creating an afternoon where even the simplest activities become opportunities for aesthetic expression. As evening approaches and the social gathering begins to disperse, you witness the final act in the day's aromatic performance. The Duchess retires to a small antechamber where her maid waits with fresh applications of scent, designed for the evening's activities. The afternoon fragrance, now several hours old and beginning to fade, is refreshed with carefully chosen elements that will carry her through dinner and whatever social obligations await in the hours ahead. The evening refresh requires its own specialized techniques. Rather than simply reapplying the same fragrance, the maid adds complementary scents that will blend with what remains of the afternoon application. To the fading florals, she adds touches of deeper, more mysterious fragrances, a hint of patchouli for earthiness, a whisper of black tea for sophistication, a trace of vanilla for warmth. The result is a fragrance that has grown and evolved throughout the day, telling the story of the Duchess's activities while preparing her for the different social requirements of evening. As you pack your implements and prepare to leave, you reflect on what you have witnessed. In the world of the French aristocracy, fragrance is not merely personal adornment, but a form of communication, a way of expressing identity, status, and intention without speaking a word. The elaborate rituals you have observed represent the refinement of scent into high art, the transformation of a basic human sense into a sophisticated tool for social and aesthetic expression. The Duchess's afternoon has been a masterpiece of aromatic orchestration, each element carefully chosen and precisely timed to create an overall impression of beauty, sophistication, and effortless elegance. But beneath the surface beauty lies a deeper truth about the nature of aristocratic life. In 18th century France, the understanding that in a world where appearance is reality, where social position depends on the successful performance of refinement, every detail matters, and nothing is left to chance. As your carriage carries you back through the streets of Paris toward your own modest workshop, you carry with you the memory of an afternoon spent in a world where beauty has been elevated to the status of religion, where the creation and appreciation of sensory pleasure has become not just an art, but a way of life. The fragrances you have witnessed today represent the pinnacle of your craft, the ultimate expression of what becomes possible when technical skill is combined with unlimited resources and refined taste. Yet there is something melancholy in this perfection, something that speaks of a world so removed from the realities of ordinary life that it has become almost ethereal in its refinement. The elaborate rituals you have witnessed are beautiful, but they are also fragile, dependent on a social and economic system that keeps thousands of people laboring in poverty to support the aesthetic pleasures of a few dozen families. In your workshop that evening, as you clean your instruments and record the day's observations, you find yourself thinking about the contrast between the world you have just left and the one to which you have returned. Your own life, dedicated to the creation of beauty and the service of luxury, occupies a middle ground between the aristocratic splendor of the Duchess's boudoir and the harsh realities of the streets, where most Parisians struggle simply to survive. The fragrances you create serve as bridges between these worlds, carrying a touch of luxury into ordinary lives, while providing the aristocracy with the tools they need to maintain their elaborate performances of refinement. In your small way, you participate in the great human project of transforming the raw materials of existence into something more beautiful, more meaningful, more worthy of the brief time we are given on this earth. As you drift towards sleep in your modest bed above the workshop, your senses still carry the ghost traces of the afternoons. Fragrances, the complex blend of roses and powder, sandalwood and silk, that spoke of a world where every breath could be an aesthetic experience, and every moment an opportunity for the creation of beauty. In your dreams, you continue to mix and blend, seeking always the perfect combination that will capture not just scent, but the very essence of human aspiration, the eternal desire to transform the ordinary into the sublime. The gilt carriage draws to a halt outside the Hotel de Soubise, and as you step down onto the cobblestones, with your leather satchel of precious vials, you enter a world where fragrance is not merely worn, but orchestrated, where scent becomes part of an elaborate daily performance that defines the very essence of aristocratic life. You have been summoned to attend the Duchess de Polignac during her afternoon toilette, that sacred ritual which transforms a woman of noble birth into a living work of art. The year is 1775, and you are about to witness the intricate ceremony through which the French elite transform the simple act of personal grooming into a complex social and aesthetic performance. In this rarefied world, every aspect of dress, deportment, and decoration carries meaning, and fragrance serves as both the foundation and the culmination of a carefully constructed identity. The footman who admits you to the hotel moves with the silent efficiency that marks all interactions in this elevated sphere. He leads you through corridors lined with tapestries that tell stories of ancient victories, past marble statues that speak of classical learning, beneath crystal chandeliers that fragment the afternoon light into countless dancing rainbows. The very air you breathe carries layers of scent beeswax from polished floors, rose water from hidden sachets, the faint trace of incense from the private chapel, and underneath it all, the complex bouquet of human ambition, refined into its most elegant expression. You are ushered into the Duchess's boudoir, a chamber that exists solely for the purpose of transformation. The walls are covered in silk the color of seafoam, painted with delicate scenes of shepherds and shepherdesses that speak of a romanticized countryside that exists only in the imagination of those who have never worked the land. The furniture is crafted from woods so rare and precious that each piece represents the labor of master craftsmen working with materials that traveled thousands of miles to reach this room. But it is the toilette table that commands your attention, a masterpiece of marquetry and bronze that serves as the altar for the daily miracle of aristocratic presentation. Its surface gleams with an array of implements that would not be out of place in an alchemist's laboratory. Silver brushes with handles carved like swan necks, crystal bottles that catch and refract the light, ivory combs so delicate they seem carved from moonbeams, and everywhere the glittering evidence of wealth so vast that it has been transformed into pure aesthetic pleasure. The Duchess herself reclines in a chair that is less furniture than throne, its upholstery matching the wall coverings, and its proportions calculated to display the human form to greatest advantage. She is perhaps 35 years old, though the careful maintenance of her appearance makes precise age determination impossible. Her skin has the porcelain perfection that comes from a lifetime of protection from sun and wind. Her hands show no trace of labor more strenuous than the lifting of a teacup, and her posture speaks of decades of training in the precise art of aristocratic deportment. But it is her scent that announces her true status even before she speaks. The fragrance that surrounds her is a masterpiece of layered complexity, built up over the course of the morning through a series of applications so precisely timed and carefully coordinated that they create an ever-evolving symphony of scent that will carry her through the social obligations of the day. Monsieur Renard, she acknowledges your presence with a slight inclination of her powdered head. I trust you have brought the new blend. We discussed her voice carries the musical quality that marks the French aristocracy. Each syllable precisely enunciated, each pause calculated for maximum effect. Even in this intimate setting, she performs her role with the conscious artistry of an actress who never steps out of character. You open your satchel and remove the crystal bottle that contains your latest creation of fragrance, designed specifically for the Duchess's afternoon social engagements. The composition reflects the complex requirements of her position, sophisticated enough to demonstrate her refinement, distinctive enough to be memorable, subtle enough to enhance rather than overwhelm her natural charms, and costly enough to remind everyone of her family's vast wealth. But before this new fragrance can be applied, you witness the elaborate ritual through which the Duchess's existing scent is refreshed and adjusted. Her lady's maid, a woman whose entire career has been devoted to the service of beauty, begins the process with movements so practiced they have become a form of dance. First comes the powder, applied with brushes of such softness that they seem made from clouds rather than hair. The powder itself is not merely cosmetic but aromatic, infused with orris root and finely ground pearls that add both fragrance and luminescence to the skin. As the maid works, moving from the Duchess's décolletage upward toward her face, she creates clouds of scented dust that catch the afternoon light streaming through the tall windows. The powder serves multiple purposes beyond mere beauty. In an age when bathing is infrequent and deodorants unknown, it absorbs the natural oils and odors of the human body, while replacing them with carefully chosen fragrances. But more than that, it creates a barrier between the Duchess's natural self and the world, transforming her into something more than merely human, a living artwork, whose every surface has been consciously designed for aesthetic pleasure. As the powder is applied, you observe the careful attention paid to scent layering. The powder carries its own fragrance, but this is designed to complement rather than compete with the other elements of the Duchess's aromatic presentation. The orris root provides a soft, floral foundation, while the pearl dust adds a subtle mineralic note that speaks of luxury beyond the reach of ordinary mortals. Next comes the attention to her hair, that elaborate architectural marvel that has required 3 hours of construction by a specialist coiffeur. The powdered wig for even the Duchess's natural hair is augmented by artificial additions, is not merely styled but perfumed, with tiny sachets of lavender and rose petals hidden within its complex structure. As she moves throughout the day, these hidden reservoirs will release gentle whispers of fragrance, creating an ever-changing olfactory environment that follows her like an invisible entourage. The process of perfuming the hair requires its own specialized techniques. The maid uses a small silver atomizer, its reservoir filled with a delicate solution of rose water and orange blossom, to create a fine mist that settles onto the powdered curls without disturbing their careful arrangement. The fragrance must be strong enough to be perceptible, but subtle enough not to clash with the other scents that will be applied to different parts of the body. You watch as attention turns to the Duchess's hands, those expressive instruments that will spend the afternoon wielding fans, handling teacups, and gesturing in the elaborate sign language of aristocratic conversation. Each fingernail is buffed to a pearl-like luster, and then treated with a minute application of scented oils, different fragrances for different fingers, creating a subtle olfactory keyboard that will release various notes as she moves through her social interactions. The palms of her hands receive their own treatment, a complex blend that includes sandalwood for its lasting power, bergamot for its brightness, and the faintest touch of ambergris for its ability to enhance and fix other fragrances. When she extends her hand to be kissed, a gesture that will occur dozens of times during the afternoon's social calls, each contact will leave a memorable impression not just of her beauty, but of her sophisticated approach to sensory pleasure. Now comes the moment for your new creation, the fragrance that will serve as the capstone of this elaborate construction. The Duchess extends her wrist with the gesture of a queen offering her hand to be kissed, and you apply the merest touch of your latest blend to the pulse point where it will be warmed by her blood and carried by her movements throughout the afternoon. The fragrance you have created specifically for her reflects both her personal preferences and her social position. The base notes speak of established wealth, rare oud from the kingdoms of Arabia, aged sandalwood from the Indian subcontinent, a whisper of genuine ambergris that costs more per ounce than most people earn in a year. These deep, complex scents will provide the foundation for everything that develops above them. The solid base notes in the symphony of her afternoon presentation. The middle notes reflect her sophisticated taste and cosmopolitan connections. Here you have combined Bulgarian rose otto with jasmine from the plantations of Grasse, creating a floral heart that is both traditionally French and exotically international. To these classics, you have added touches of white tea, that fashionable import from the Orient that speaks of her awareness of global trends, and a hint of cardamom that suggests both spice and sophistication. The top notes are where your artistry truly shines, creating the immediate impression that will greet everyone who enters her presence. You have chosen bergamot for its brightness and intelligence, pink grapefruit for its vivacious charm, and the faintest whisper of champagne essence, a recent innovation that captures the effervescent joy of celebration in liquid form. The overall effect is of a fragrance that announces itself with joy and confidence before settling into something deeper and more complex. As the fragrance begins to develop on her skin, warming and changing as it reacts with her body chemistry, you observe the subtle transformation that occurs in the Duchess's demeanor. The application of perfume is not merely cosmetic but psychological, the final element that completes her transformation from private individual to public persona. With her scent in place, she becomes fully herself, or rather, she becomes the carefully constructed version of herself that she will present to the world. The Duchess rises from her chair with a rustling of silk that releases fresh waves of fragrance from the sachets hidden in the folds of her dress. Her gown itself is part of the aromatic performance, its fabric treated with rose water and stored with bundles of dried lavender. As she moves, different scents emerge and blend, creating an ever-changing bouquet that ensures she never presents exactly the same olfactory impression twice. You accompany the Duchess as she begins her afternoon rounds, observing how fragrance functions in the complex social ecosystem of aristocratic Paris. Her first stop is the salon of Madame de Maintenon, where the city's most influential women gather to discuss literature, politics, and the endless intrigue that defines court life. As the Duchess enters the room, her scent announces her presence before she speaks, creating an immediate impression of sophistication and wealth that establishes her position in the social hierarchy. The salon itself is a masterclass in aromatic orchestration. Each woman present wears her own distinctive fragrance, but these have been chosen with careful attention to how they will interact with others in the confined space. The result is not chaos but harmony, a complex blend of individual scents that creates an overall impression of refinement and luxury. Servants move through the room with silver censers, adding touches of frankincense and myrrh that provide a unifying base note for the assembled company. You observe how the women use their fans not merely for cooling, but as instruments of scent distribution, each flutter releasing carefully calculated puffs of fragrance that carry their presence across the room. When they embrace in greeting that elaborate ritual of air kissing that allows for maximum display while minimizing the risk of disturbing carefully arranged cosmetics, they exchange not just social pleasantries, but aromatic information, each woman's scent mixing briefly with her friends to create momentary blends that speak of alliances, preferences, and social positioning. The The conversation in the salon flows around topics that would be considered frivolous by those outside this rarefied world. But you begin to understand that discussions of fashion, fragrance, and artistic taste serve functions far beyond mere entertainment. In a society where political power is concentrated in the hands of a few men, women exercise influence through the cultural sphere, shaping taste and opinion through the careful cultivation of aesthetic preferences. As the afternoon progresses, you witness how the Duchess's fragrance evolves and changes, different notes becoming prominent as her body temperature rises and falls. As she moves between the warm interior of the salon and the cooler air of the garden, where some guests have withdrawn for more private conversations, the perfume you created serves as a kind of olfactory wardrobe, providing different impressions for different moments while maintaining an overall coherence that marks it as distinctively hers. The sophistication of this aromatic performance becomes most apparent during the elaborate ritual of afternoon tea. As the Duchess raises her cup to her lips, the steam from the hot liquid carries the fragrance from her hands and wrists upward, creating a complex blend of tea, perfume, and the scented powder on her face. Each sip becomes a multisensory experience that engages not just taste but smell, creating memories that will be triggered whenever she encounters similar combinations of scent and flavor. The other women present participate in their own versions of this aromatic theater. You observe how Lady Beauvau has chosen a fragrance dominated by white flowers that complement the jasmine tea she favors, while the Comtesse de Polignac wears a spicier blend that harmonizes with the cinnamon pastries she prefers. Every choice has been made with conscious artistry, creating an afternoon where even the simplest activities become opportunities for aesthetic expression. As evening approaches and the social gathering begins to disperse, you witness the final act in the day's aromatic performance. The Duchess retires to a small antechamber where her maid waits with fresh applications of scent, designed for the evening's activities. The afternoon fragrance, now several hours old and beginning to fade, is refreshed with carefully chosen elements that will carry her through dinner and whatever social obligations await in the hours ahead. The evening refresh requires its own specialized techniques. Rather than simply reapplying the same fragrance, the maid adds complementary scents that will blend with what remains of the afternoon application. To the fading florals, she adds touches of deeper, more mysterious fragrances, a hint of patchouli for earthiness, a whisper of black tea for sophistication, a trace of vanilla for warmth. The result is a fragrance that has grown and evolved throughout the day, telling the story of the Duchess's activities while preparing her for the different social requirements of evening. As you pack your implements and prepare to leave, you reflect on what you have witnessed. In the world of the French aristocracy, fragrance is not merely personal adornment, but a form of communication, a way of expressing identity, status, and intention without speaking a word. The elaborate rituals you have observed represent the refinement of scent into high art, the transformation of a basic human sense into a sophisticated tool for social and aesthetic expression. The Duchess's afternoon has been a masterpiece of aromatic orchestration, each element carefully chosen and precisely timed to create an overall impression of beauty, sophistication, and effortless elegance. But beneath the surface beauty lies a deeper truth about the nature of aristocratic life. In 18th century France, the understanding that in a world where appearance is reality, where social position depends on the successful performance of refinement, every detail matters, and nothing is left to chance. As your carriage carries you back through the streets of Paris toward your own modest workshop. You carry with you the memory of an afternoon spent in a world where beauty has been elevated to the status of religion, where the creation and appreciation of sensory pleasure has become not just an art, but a way of life. The fragrances you have witnessed today represent the pinnacle of your craft, the ultimate expression of what becomes possible when technical skill is combined with unlimited resources and refined taste. Yet there is something melancholy in this perfection, something that speaks of a world so removed from the realities of ordinary life that it has become almost ethereal in its refinement. The elaborate rituals you have witnessed are beautiful, but they are also fragile, dependent on a social and economic system that keeps thousands of people laboring in poverty to support the aesthetic pleasures of a few dozen families. In your workshop that evening, as you clean your instruments and record the day's observations, you find yourself thinking about the contrast between the world you have just left and the one to which you have returned. Your own life, dedicated to the creation of beauty and the service of luxury, occupies a middle ground between the aristocratic splendor of the Duchess's boudoir and the harsh realities of the streets, where most Parisians struggle simply to survive. The fragrances you create serve as bridges between these worlds, carrying a touch of luxury into ordinary lives, while providing the aristocracy with the tools they need to maintain their elaborate performances of refinement. In your small way, you participate in the great human project of transforming the raw materials of existence into something more beautiful, more meaningful, more worthy of the brief time we are given on this earth. And so we reach the end of our aromatic journey through the workshops and salons of 18th century Paris, where the simple act of creating fragrance became an art form that touched every aspect of human experience. You have walked alongside the patient craftsmen who transformed flowers into liquid dreams, witnessed the subtle power wielded by those who understood that beauty could be a form of influence, and observed the elaborate rituals through which an entire class of people transformed daily existence into continuous aesthetic performance. In the quiet workshops of the perfumers, we found the steady rhythms of ancient craft, the careful tending of fires, the patient distillation of essences, the delicate art of blending scents that would carry the dreams and aspirations of an entire age. These artisans, working with copper stills and glass vials, with rose petals and exotic spices, created not merely commercial products, but cultural artifacts that spoke of their society's deepest values and desires. Through the story of Madame de Pompadour, we discovered how fragrance could become a tool of statecraft, how the careful cultivation of beauty could generate influence that transcended the traditional boundaries of political power. Her perfumes were not mere personal indulgences, but sophisticated instruments of communication, speaking simultaneously of tradition and innovation, luxury and intelligence, feminine grace and political acumen. In our exploration of the lost fragrances of Versailles, we encountered the melancholy truth that beauty is ephemeral, that even the most sophisticated creations of human artistry can vanish without trace, leaving behind only fragments and memories. Yet we also witnessed the enduring human desire to preserve and reconstruct beauty, to ensure that something of past achievements survives to enrich future generations. Finally, in the elaborate boudoirs and salons of the aristocracy, we observed how the simple human sense of smell could be refined into an instrument of extraordinary complexity and sophistication. The daily rituals of scent application became performances of identity, demonstrations of taste, and expressions of a worldview that saw beauty not as luxury, but as necessity, not as decoration, but as the fundamental purpose of civilized existence. These glimpses into the aromatic world of 18th century Paris remind us that our ancestors lived in a sensory environment as rich and complex as our own, though organized around different principles and expressed through different means. Their understanding of fragrance as communication, as art, as a bridge between the physical and spiritual worlds, offers insights that remain relevant to our own time. As you settle into the comfort of your modern bed, surrounded by the controlled sense of contemporary life, you might reflect on what we have gained and lost in our journey from that aromatic past to our sanitized present. We have achieved miracles of hygiene and convenience that the perfumers of Paris could never have imagined. But perhaps we have also lost something of their understanding that scent can be poetry, that fragrance can carry meaning, that the careful cultivation of beauty serves purposes beyond mere decoration. The workshops are empty now, their copper stills cold, their wooden shelves bare of the precious oils that once filled them with the concentrated essence of flowers and dreams. The salons are silent, their elaborate rituals abandoned, their sophisticated conversations replaced by the different concerns of different ages. But something of their spirit survives in every bottle of perfume that captures a moment of beauty, in every fragrance that triggers a memory, in every scent that transforms an ordinary moment into something more meaningful. Sleep well, knowing that you have shared, if only for these few hours, in the ancient human art of making the world more beautiful, one breath at a time. In your dreams, may you carry forward something of the patience of those craftsmen, the sophistication of those artists, and the understanding that beauty, even in its most ephemeral forms, represents one of humanity's highest aspirations, the desire to transform the raw materials of existence into something worthy of wonder. Memories and loves, let the gentle rhythms of their world, the slow distillation of essences, the careful blending of fragrances, the quiet satisfaction of work well done, carry you gently into peaceful sleep, where the scented dreams of centuries past merge with the possibilities of mornings yet to come.